Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Ben Griffin podcast. Today I'm joined by Henry and Nate, who's returning from episode 9. In this installment, we talk about discourse, the environment, movies, and self-reflective habits. Thanks for joining us today, and hope you enjoy the podcast. Henry, welcome to the podcast. He looks at me like an owl, like, what the hell is going on here? Thanks, Nate Dogg is back. I don't actually know where that name came from. Where did Nate Dogg? Is that a?
It's like a cross country track thing. Okay. There's a guy, I think he graduated a year or two before I even got here, but his name was Nate Dogg, and he was, from what I've heard, he was like an out there dude. He always wore like leather gloves and like button down shirts and ties everywhere, and like he'd like punch trees before races, and he was just kind of he was an out there dude from what I've heard. So everyone's like, oh wow, we got another Nate. That's Nate Dogg. So
you were
I'm Nate Dogg. I just inherited the name.
You were put in with the crazies.
Exactly. Second generation.
That makes sense.
The bloodline is strong. So that's it. Just adopting what's already there. So yeah.
And of course, we've got Henry.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast, man. I love having you here. He's got this huge tuft of hair like, stuffed underneath the headphones.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, it's so like, I don't know. It looks like a lion's mane. It's like wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah. But let's just jump right into it. You were going to bring something up here. You came in. You're like, I got an idea. I need to talk to you guys about something.
It's going to be cooking.
Jump right out at it.
So Friday and Saturday, I went to this event on campus called the Talk Climate Institute.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. How'd that go?
It went pretty well. And I've been trying to like talk more about climate with people. Sweet. After going to that. Like that's kind of the purpose of the whole thing. And earlier this morning, I was talking with someone at breakfast right before coming here who was like, I don't want to say not on board, but maybe not on board on the way that I am about climate change.
Oh,
and
I see.
I don't know. I was wondering if you guys would want to talk about it. I don't want to like ruin our friendship or anything, but like,
no, that's what we're here for.
This is the platform to share, man, because I don't look into it as much. I consider myself kind of a casual listener. I think I'm like most people where, yeah, I want to help, but a part of me just feels like I either don't know enough or that the community I just don't want to be involved with in some weird way through some story or something happens. And I'm like kind of on the edge, and I'm never taking that jump to be in the marches. So I'd love to hear whatever you got to say. You know, this is about learning because I'm a certifiable idiot on this podcast. So bring it up. I would love to hear what you got.
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten a lot more involved in, I guess, activism around climate change pretty recently. I've started taking environmental studies classes, and I participated in the climate strike back in like September. I forget when that was.
Were you on the march that went to? There was one that went to Duluth.
I was not.
You weren't on that one,
but
okay.
there was a climate strike like on campus.
I do remember that one.
It wasn't a huge deal. Like honestly, the turnout was kind of sad, but like
I got my wristband.
Did you get the green one? Like
yeah.
So that was good. People got those. I still see those around, you know.
Yeah. I'll try once in a great while to do it. I took the environmental communication class, and that was really awkward. I'm not gonna lie. It was rough.
I guess the question I want to pose for you guys is: I get that not everyone can feel like they can take action on it, or maybe feels like it's just not their issue. Like they have other things they're more passionate about. But I really feel like it's important enough to talk about on a semi-regular basis. Like I feel like everyone should talk about climate change with the people they care about, and I don't think that happens. Like I think more than half of everyone in Minnesota, maybe even at this college, don't have those conversations. And do you guys think that's lacking, or do you think it's okay that is it something that is so important we need to be discussing it frequently?
I got stuff.
I know
I think
you
about
do.
This a lot.
Yeah.
I might be taking. I don't know if I'm gonna say it's an opposite of you, but I think this, from my perspective, I think, and I hate to use these terms, but I have to generalize for the sake of this, because climate change and advocating for climate change is progressive, right? And a lot of the dialogue that surrounds progressive movements is really fucking annoying and shitty and toxic, because you look at, we'll just go presidential, right? You look at how people talk about conservatives and Republicans and Donald Trump. That's why he got elected. I just saw this campaign ad. It was literally just a minute and a half of people mocking Donald Trump and his supporters. And at the end, it just said, they think you're a joke, prove them wrong in November. And that's really effective. So I think it's like, I'll get this back down to climate change, but politically, it's like, which one do I like hate less? Like, these people just think I'm a fucking joke, right? So I'm going to go vote for this guy to like prove them wrong and make a statement. I think a lot of the similar stuff goes for climate change. Like, it's very like, yes, I agree with you. You're right. But I don't like how you're talking about it. And I don't like the energy you give off when you talk about it. So I can't associate with it. It's like, I agree with what you're saying, but I don't agree with how you're saying it. And how you say it's so important. So like when, what's her name? Greta Thunberg or whatever?
Thunberg, yeah.
Can't stand her. Like, horrendous. I'm not a fan because the way she talks about it, I agree with what you're saying, but I can't get behind how you're saying it. So I think the way we talk about it is so exclusive and it is so kind of self-absorbed in a weird sense. I think it drives a lot of people away because everyone here cares about climate change. No one's stupid enough to be like, yes, let's voluntarily destroy the earth. No. But I think the reason people push back on it is because there's something else going on. There's a feeling of a personal attack. Or there's a feeling of lack of understanding. And we're not, for people listening, I'm doing things with my hands. There's someone on the right and there's someone on the left. And instead of building a middle, we're just dividing ourselves more by being climate change, deny climate change, deny climate change, deny climate change. So I think in this conversation, we need to talk about it more, but we need to change how we're talking about it to build a middle, if that makes sense, so we can bridge the gap and include everyone in it. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but...
No, I think you make a lot of sense because I'm looking at it... Because I look at it the same. I don't fully... Well, I should say this. I understand why it's political because
Everything
it can
has
be
to
worked into politically.
It has to be.
But I think, kind of getting back to what you're saying about why people don't want to talk about it, is because it's politics. Now, it's not what it should be. It's considered in a category now that really most people like yourself that are environmental activists, and I would even consider myself like, I'm somewhere in the middle because I'm outdoors so much. I've spent so much of my life outdoors. I enjoy the outdoors. Most of my political, voting does come down to a lot of times what somebody's doing with the environment. I won't hide from that, but because I feel like I'm half-assing a lot of the time, so I'm kind of a half-ass when it comes to that. But it is interesting that it's been pulled into this place of political tension where folks don't want to talk about it anymore. And I don't really know how you can get it out, because the only other opposite way I can see it going, and the way that it's going now, is we were talking before the podcast about woke culture.
Yeah.
And how it's considered almost religious. And I thought that was really interesting that people get behind these things, that they'll just push it without knowledge and just assume that this is right. And that's not saying that they're wrong. We do need to help out. But it's the folks that are so loud and that come at people so aggressively that it turns people off to conversations before they even start. And I wish that there was more people like yourself that want to sit down with folks that would rather develop a friendship, because from friendship comes understanding. From understanding comes knowledge. I don't think knowledge develops understanding. I think it's the other way around. I think if you are able to engage with somebody and at least hold a conversation and say, like, see, I'm just a normal guy like anyone else, I think the message comes through really strong. And I don't think there's as much talking as there could be. And I think you're absolutely right. It needs to happen more. I think that's the answer. At the dinner table is when people are talking. It needs to be kind of like, settle down. We're not talking politics. We're talking about penguins. We're talking about oceans. We're talking about trash. Even like getting into space. I know this is like, I've been going on a space tangent. The ring of trash around like our atmosphere is insane. It's incredibly dangerous. And the speed that, think of this. Think of a nail flying around like the Earth, right, in orbit. Astronauts have to worry about those because they're going about 8 to 10 times faster than a bullet.
God, that's crazy.
Like, it will eventually choke us up, and it will impede our progress in a way, like it has in outer space. With the space station, you hear things they're hitting the space station all the time. So I'm kind of going on a tangent, I know, but
no, that makes sense.
So we're here for
I think what you're saying and your question, I think you're absolutely right in you're answering your own question.
I think Nate hit it on the nose with people who deny climate change or people who don't want to talk about it feel attacked.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they hear the people who are the loudest and the most aggressive. They don't hear people who just want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important at a personal level to bring it at the conversation level and at the emotional relationship level instead of it being like facts, like you're wrong.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about it. And
That bull rush of just information without really knowing it. You're just kind of regurgitating what you've heard. Really turns people off.
It's definitely the responsibility of liberals and people who get behind climate change to accept that they don't know everything.
Yeah.
And that there is room for interpretation and there is room for discussion. It's not like I'm going to gift you with my 100% pure knowledge and you're going to accept this. It's it's a trade-off.
Enlightened. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also kind of crazy. I followed a gentleman. He just went on the Joe Rogan podcast, actually. His name is Daryl Davis.
Oh, yeah.
And he converted 200 members of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I thought
I know
that was brilliant. And his whole idea is like, you can't come at them like hard. You can't expect to change them overnight. It's sticking with them and being willing to kind of let yourself be vulnerable and open yourself up to what you believe and why you believe it. It's kind of what you're going back to.
And I kind of want to elaborate on that because I think because his TED Talk where he talks about like he like it's just titled like I forget what it is like
why as a black man I attend Klan meetings.
Exactly. And it's fascinating because it's this idea of listening to understand. And you don't change things like you're saying overnight. You don't be like, hey, you, climate change, unsustainable, like practices and business moves. And it's like, we're destroying our earth. It's like, no, you can't hit people with that like straight from the get-go. Yeah. You just have to sit down as a human being, as person to person, and talk about it. Because I always think like, people are like, why, how can people deny climate change? The facts are all there. Well, if you've been working, been busting your ass your whole life, and like blue collar, unsustainable like energy, corporations and like things like that in that sector, right? And you have a bunch of college kids and scientists yelling at you, you're destroying the earth, you're doing it wrong. Yeah. Well, of course you're gonna deny it. Of course you're gonna push back, not because the facts aren't there, but because you're like, fuck off, privileged college kid from fucking Edina. You don't want to listen to that. And it makes sense to me because you don't want someone to come in from this kind of upper stratosphere and be like, hey, you, what are you doing? You're destroying the country. You're destroying the world. You're horrible. And it's like, that's some of the dialogue that I think is implied because it is so us versus them in a sense. It's like in Revenge of the Sith. It's like, you're either with me or you're my enemy. And it's like, that's not. That can't be a
Star Wars tangent again.
Oh God, here we go. But no, so I think kind of listening to understanding and being like Henry and like sitting down and listening, because my mom always says things start at the dinner table, things happen with family. So listening to understand and sitting down person to person is huge because we can't keep going on this us versus them. Yeah. Because we'll never do anything. If we want to affect change, we have to just have dialogue. And you don't develop that by just shouting at people and throwing facts in their face, you know?
Mm-hmm. So, I totally agree. Yeah. I think like what you're doing now, I think is awesome. I think you just kind of keep at it in a weird way.
Thanks, man.
I know. It's an uphill battle.
It seems so pointless because you're like, I'm just having a talk with someone. I'm just having a conversation. Yeah. Like, what's going to happen? But wait, you go. What's up?
It's hard sometimes with issues like this that I'm pretty passionate about. And it's not just climate change, but when you get in a conversation with someone or an argument with someone and they're not giving at all, they're like, this is where I stand. And like,
it's interesting too.
It's hard because you want to be like, okay, I don't agree with you. And like, I want to almost tell you you're wrong, but you have to just let that be, I think.
Well, you're a stronger man than most because I think a lot of people would just give up. And that is a funny thing that people, especially at this age, I think it's like now and when you're like in the middle of your life, are like when you are the most like, this is who I am. There's no changing me. Mm-hmm. And that's tough to kind of like bridge the gap, dude, especially on campus. I bet you've come across people that like, I know this from just having the show. Like, I like to invite people that I don't know a lot or that I disagree with is a big part. Like, I like to bring those people on and hear them. And there's really nothing behind it. It's kind of like putting up a sign like, this is just what I know. This is how I'm going to act because I don't really know anything other than this. And I was one of those people too. So it is kind of interesting that people just, this is the way I am. I'm not going to change. And they don't realize, like, it's okay to kind of have self-reflectiveness when you're walking into a debate.
Absolutely.
It's okay to be that way. And it is interesting here on campus. I've seen that a lot. I know I'm like, that's interesting. That, like, I'm just remembering times now, because I think on college campuses, that's just the way, that's status quo everywhere, is people just believe what they believe, and they're not really here to change. They're here to change others, but not themselves.
Going off of that, when are people in their lives most open to change?
Oh, I'm going to say I have an idea.
Let's go right now. What's up?
I feel like either when you're at first adapting, like the transition from middle school to high school, because I feel like that's where most people do their flips. And I also think when you're starting as a young adult and you're about to become like that parenting age, like from around 25 to about 35.
Yeah.
I think most people go through the dominant changes then.
Honestly, this is kind of
that's a speculation.
This is counterintuitive to what you said before, but I think coming into college and first year of college is huge. I think that's when we're so open, potentially. That first semester of college.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah, just being in a place of higher education, a totally different environment, not being with your parents, being able to make your own decisions, things like that. I think that's when people really get stuck in their ways, like we said. And then that's where you get the staunch defender of said belief, because you're like, oh, well, I learned this is law. And then, so those kind of absolute, like, I don't want to say beliefs, but those absolutes that people have, I think that's really brought in that first semester, because you are so like vulnerable and you're learning so much new stuff.
Yeah, it is funny because they are like I said before, it's weird because it's almost religious. Yeah. Like there's this faith in something that you don't fully understand. Dude, people are actually starting to call woke culture a cult.
Yeah.
Because it's taking on qualities like one where you just, there's no depth to the knowledge. It's just, this is what I know, and we're just going to keep pushing
It's like, oh,
further.
they told me on the news.
Yeah.
Believe it. It's true. There you go. There's not a lot of accountability for yourself and what you're getting.
And this is going to sound very strange, but there is a hierarchy in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because depending on, what type of culture you come from, what the color of your skin, your sex, all of this plays into kind of the level of voice that you should have. I say should have in quotes because everyone can be attacked within it.
Of course.
But it is crazy. It's interesting to see it now. I'm reading into the idea of woke cults currently, because they're currently kind of turning inward on each other, which is so strange.
Is a woke cult usually from the left politically, or from the
left? It's very... It's tricky to describe because we have a lot of politicians, especially now, that are classic liberals or classic Democrats, and then there's the left, which is like the woke group. Yeah. And woke group is more like our age. Like I've got friends that are members of what they would describe themselves as a woke individual. Yeah. And I've got to get them on. I'd love to talk to them. They're awesome. They're nice people. It's just my favorite way of describing this is when way back in America's history, there was a church, I believe in Rhode Island, and it was 50 people. And over the next 3 years after this faith started, it was like the purest Puritans, right? Purest Puritans. They weren't pure enough, so they started turning on each other to kind of find a way to get up higher. Like, oh, I'm better than you, so that's how I know I'm doing this right. And by the end, it was just the founder and his wife. And what do you think happened? He divorced the wife.
It's almost like this really competitive form of Calvinism.
It is.
It's like, I will get to heaven. I will be the most pure.
Yeah. And that's kind of what's going on sometimes in woke communities. Is what will happen is once they've kind of purged an area, they go after each other, and more harshly than they do the public, because it's in your own ranks. So there's an expectation to, if you are not helping me, we are going to cancel you and destroy you. And it's sad because these are people. I see people, a lot of people see them as like what you were saying, like ignorance. Like I know there's people out there that come out too aggressive on debates or arguments, but at the same time, to me, I think they're people, and you see them go deep into this belief system and go all out believing in it, and then it turns on them and they become the enemy of what they believed. It's just crazy.
That's true.
But
there's so many Revenge of the Sith things I could say. You become the very thing you swore to destroy.
Let me push this away.
No, but I think it's I think there's a lot to that, and I think that's a really problematic spot we're at, especially in our discourse and how we go about dialogue, because it is so absolute. It is so, like, even you just talk about like kind of these cults and these cliques within certain ideologies, and it's like going back to what we were kind of talking about I agree with you, but I don't agree with how you're saying it. So how can I associate with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I going to vote for Donald Trump? No, but I also don't really associate with this really staunch progressive movement. So I'm like, where do I go when it comes time to, like, I think there's a lot of people, I think a lot of Americans are really moderate, but it's a hard spot to go because you're like, well, I don't want to go here, but I don't want to go here either. Even though I agree with one of these sides, I can't go either spot.
And I think people at that point just stop being political a lot of the time.
Yeah,
exactly.
They're just like, I don't want to think about it.
that's what
I'm
I
done.
did. That's what I did my freshman year. I just dropped it all, and then I started realizing like I should at least know basic level stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm doing journalism, but
But I think it's huge
I
because
think
like
you're absolutely right.
you look at like 2016, the election of Donald Trump and stuff. I don't think it's because, like, a lot of people say people who are Trump supporters you're racist, sexist, bigot, misogynist. I don't buy that for a minute because it's not true. But also, like, I understand why. I see why that was the option. It's like, look at all these college kids and these progressives and these people living in the city telling me how to live my life. I'm busting my ass in the middle of fucking Nebraska, like, farming. Like, what?
Yeah.
Or, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's just such a lack of understanding. And especially 2016 and how divisive and polarizing that was. There's just such a lack of understanding because if you're conservative, you're racist. If you're left, you're look at this snowflake communist who doesn't know how to work for anything. You know, it's like neither of those are true.
Yeah.
But we've been driven into our silos, so discourse is impossible.
And the
because
name
we're just
calling
shouting
doesn't
at each
help.
other.
The name
Exactly.
calling doesn't, because I've been pegged, you know, this or the other, and I don't even know where I stand, like on most things. I probably am maybe more left. I don't really know.
Well, it's like this JFK quote. He's like, we shouldn't look for the Democratic or the Republican answer. We should just look for the right answer.
Yeah,
and now
that's the line.
that's almost impossible because
Yeah.
you look at the impeachment vote. Everyone's just gonna vote party lines, regardless.
Dude,
it doesn't matter.
That made me sad.
It sucks.
I'll be real.
Let's talk about it.
Oh God.
Can we go back from that?
No,
That's my
yeah,
question.
dude.
Like,
What do you mean?
after such extreme...
Oh, I thought you meant topic.
No.
We got to head out.
We're done. No.
I want to go back to this penguin thing.
After such an extreme, like, partisanship that is our government right now, like, in the impeachment trial, pretty much all Republicans voted to acquit, pretty much all Democrats. I mean, you guys know this. Can we go back to a society, if it ever was there, that looks for the truth rather than what their party believes?
I always look back to,
That's
like,
a hard one.
Also, shout out Mitt Romney, though.
Yeah.
Dude,
I got a crazy story about Mitt
That's
Romney.
gangster. We should tag that. I want to hear about the Mitt Romney story.
You want to hear this? Okay,
let me hit you with something though, right quick.
Go at it.
Going back to something, Charles Sumter and Preston Brooks, right? I forget which one was the Republican and the Democrat, but that was the caning on the Senate floor back in the 1860s. I forget which one was the Republican, which one was the Democrat, but the Republican, one of the two, was advocating he was just criticizing the shit out of slavery and totally being a proponent of abolition. Because this is when the Republicans were still, like, very progressive. So he's like, no, we need to abolish slavery. We need to free the slaves, all that. And then you've got the Republican of the two, or the Democrat of the two. I can't believe I don't remember which one is which. But he comes back, he canes the dude. He beats the shit out of him with a cane.
I remember this
Whoa.
on the floor.
So
yeah.
he beats the shit out of him, right? He literally takes his cane, boom, beats the hell out of this guy. And it's like, throughout American politics, I think we have been this polarized, but we haven't had the platform of social media and, like, as much information as we have to really know it. So now we're just bombarded with federal polarization in the House and the Senate. And even though it might have always been like that, I think this exposure to it has permeated down to the people.
Totally.
So I think the biggest thing is not necessarily the government itself, but the fact that it is promulgated as it is.
Yeah.
Because we've always been at each other's throats, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's always been this swing effect, though, in the history of the United States. It's gone, and it's not perfect, you know. It's gone from really conservative to very progressive.
Yep.
Really conservative to really progressive. And one of the guys I've had on the show, he's got a great line. It's not his, but, you know, strong man makes good times. Good times makes weak man makes hard times make good men.
Facts.
Like, I think that's kind of the history of America, and I think that's the same with politics. In a weird way, is that conservative times makes liberal people make liberal politics makes conservative people, and it just keeps, there's a cycle.
It's a pendulum. It's always swinging back and forth.
Yeah, I think there's always unrest. But the thing that I'm seeing more now than I ever have, and this is strictly from a comm major, studying comm, is how easy it is to be tribal, and how easy it is to cut off sections and just say, this is what we believe, and if you don't believe this, you're sectioned out. Because I've been kicked out of groups for doing stuff like this, where we just have a conversation. It's like, why would you ever sit down with a conservative? Why would you ever sit down with a liberal? And then they kick you out of the group.
Do you have any stories that come to mind out of curiosity?
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a really good one. One of my favorites was, I'm not a very good practicing religious person, but one of the things that got my friends very, very upset, because I went to a Catholic school, is that I was fascinated with LGBTQ culture.
Absolutely.
I wanted to know, because I went to a heavy, heavy conservative school, and they never talked about it. They never answered straight up to me. So I just was like, you know what? I'm going to go do it. And that very much upset a lot of my friends. And probably the one I most commonly do is I don't drink. I don't like to drink. I'm not really a guy that likes to be drunk. I've never been drunk, never been buzzed, have no interest in doing it. I can't tell you how many times people have just stopped the conversation because they were so weirded out by that.
That's so weird to me.
I've been walked out on. Yeah, I was standing at a party meeting these two guys. I still remember their names. And they were just stopped the conversation and left. Wow. And I was just because I don't share that value of getting absolutely twisted and wasted on the weekend.
Bro, let's get blasted.
I'm not,
dude.
I'm not worth your time. That's a simple one, but coming from a Catholic school, studying LGBTQ, another one that I got people upset about is I sat down and interviewed. Again, I came from a Catholic conservative school. I was one of their. I got awards, so they kept track of me in a weird way. I sat down with the polar opposite of me, and actually there's a picture of her up there. Her name's Sarah, and she's got pink hair in that, but at the time she had purple hair, and she's bi. And what happened was I sat down with her, and she ended up becoming one of my best friends. And it's one of these people that could have been further from me. I was very conservative minded when I left high school, and I needed to be more self-reflective. I'm probably more liberal now, just from what I've experienced, especially once I went and did prisons. I went through prisons and met people, and sitting down with people like Sarah, because I just didn't know. And is it, when you get that chance to sit down with people and explain and try to understand or try to build a friendship, you don't know what's going to happen. She's one of my best friends. And that definitely upset quite a bit of people. I lost touch with a lot of folks. It's funny when you're a certain age, too, because parents are the ones that do it. I'm sorry. No, yeah, that chair's so loud. It's fine.
I apologize. It's
Lucas was on the last show, and he goes, dude.
Adjusting.
Yeah, if it's uncomfortable, too, you're welcome to, move around if you need to. But no, it is always interesting. But going back to online tribalism, it's rampant online.
Yeah.
And another example of this is I love to analyze basketball. I love to analyze basketball. I love analyzing soccer. I'm trying to get into track a little bit. I just did a story on one of your teammates.
Who?
Tracy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Gee, gangster. She's super cool.
Yep, she's awesome and a monster in the cross season.
Absolutely.
But I'm doing these stories, and fanatics, if you're not in line with what they're saying or what they believe, you're the devil, and they come after you. So I wrote a short article on, I think I wrote it on the Timberwolves. I know I wrote it on the draft. That was my big thing, is who the Timberwolves should draft. And I basically laid out my opinion. I said what I said, and I said at the very end, as a Timberwolves fan, I hope to see this. And that was kind of my closing thing.
Yeah.
Let all of this just be notion. This is my opinion. This comes from experience that I've had through playing and being around the franchise and just, my basketball knowledge. And it's my own. So take it or leave it. Mm-hmm. And what I got back was just, how dare you say this? Why on earth would you? I'm trying to remember the draft.
It's so weird.
It was 2017. and I was basically saying something like, get more shooting. I got to pull it back up. But I remember getting emails where they just called me like a fucking joke and like all this stuff. Yeah.
That's honestly kind of funny. Like,
Yeah.
how?
I've gotten shit for doing this. Like I've gotten
Really?
people have told me like just because you can talk doesn't mean you should have a podcast.
People are gonna
So-
blast me because I said fuck Greta Thunberg. Now I'm screwed.
we all know that she's personally. I kind of like her because I'm just amazed by her, like at her age. But I think meme culture has definitely destroyed her image.
Bro, meme is
Oh,
woke.
it's so
meme culture
good.
is the epitome of woke culture.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's like the full opposite to me.
Yeah.
It's like people that can never take anything seriously at once. But at the same time, I like that there's a balance, you know?
Oh man, there's a balance. I don't know, man. Meme culture, I feel like is gonna
we
destroy
can
us
get into
all.
this. Oh, I love meme culture.
It's
Yeah.
kind of a good thing, but also like, oh man, some people are just ingrained in it, and like
Yeah.
to them.
I attribute the fact that I'm really moderate to like memes. That sounds
Oh.
so stupid, but that's like that's facts. Like I
Like you don't moderate and as in
oh, and like politically.
oh god,
What do you think I meant?
I thought you were like, you know,
Moderate
oh,
temper.
Yeah, like, oh, here's a guy sliding down a driveway, watch him fall for 7 seconds.
Oh,
you
no,
know?
no.
Like
Bro, but like politically, I think I attribute memes to making me like moderate. That sounds so stupid. But
where did you used to lie along the spectrum? Maybe like before memes came
I
into your
used to
life.
be I'd say I was
I
pretty
love that term.
liberal. I was pretty liberal. Then I came up here, and like I kind of had a boomerang effect. Cause you go to college, you hear everyone's fucking like, oh, the liberals are in college, but like I feel like as I got up here, I became kind of, I don't know if the word would be more sympathetic, but I kind of understood the conservative point of view more, and like a lot of like memes and like the weird like kind of pseudo cults I'm in online that I like browse through. It's like,
Dude, sign me up.
it's way more conservative. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. And so like there's some stupid like a meme about like, I don't know, I can't even think of anything off the top of my head, but there's some dumb meme about like the Second Amendment or something
Yeah.
like that. Like the electric boogaloo, like the
Oh, God,
you know what I'm talking about? Like
you're
the
deep in
Second
it.
Civil War. I'm
Oh,
in it.
yeah,
But I was like, I
Jesus.
take this dumb shit with a grain of salt.
I just watch people fall down. I will say though, my TikToks are horrific. I love
Yeah.
horrific TikToks.
Let me finish this point because it makes you sound like a psycho. But like,
I think we're good there. Let's just leave you as this. No, I'm
we're
kidding.
good.
I'm
We're
kidding.
gonna
No.
close it now.
No.
But like, so that sounds dumb, but I've always been like, okay, this is stupid and it's just for jokes, and I get a laugh out of it. But I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Like, I can understand both of these points of views now, and like, it's not that I take these as like Bible, but I become like more understanding of kind of these people's opinions.
Well, you just want exposure.
Memes are like this. Oh God, I can't believe I'm analyzing memes.
Nah,
I sound
man.
like a creep.
Dude,
No, this
I-
is great.
No, I've written papers on memes.
But like,
Like they're that influential currently.
the way I see it is like those are how people feel. That's people's opinions. That's like, it's like an essay and an image in a sense. So I look at these things and I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. And then I think about it more. I'm like, you know what? Like that guy feels that way. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Let's examine that thought or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I see that. I'm like, okay, like interesting. So it's not like, I'm not like believing like,
Mm-hmm.
the Jewish ethno state and world control of like the media. Like none of that shit. And like,
I'll be real though. I feel like memes are so accessible, and initially, you're not going to take them seriously. The most extreme memes.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm talking about memes like this, but
Dude, welcome to the Griffin podcast.
as you keep going, as the months and years go by, I think it can change your taste and opinions
Yeah.
more and more without you even realizing it,
Yeah.
until all of a sudden you find yourself at this point where it's like, whoa, I have pretty extreme
Yeah.
values and views from just online communities and meme culture.
I think
And
that's absolutely
I'm
true.
not saying memes are wrong. Like, honestly, in some ways they're great because they let people experience new views like really quickly and very accessible, but
it is kind of interesting that a lot of memes are conservative minded.
yeah,
I never thought of
especially
that.
if you really go into like kind of the deep, like the deeper communities of it.
Yeah.
It's very conservative, which I think is really fascinating. 'Cause
Yeah.
here's where we get into strange stuff. But like I said, like these crazy things, like the Jewish ethno state of the American media, and we're going to like destroy the U.S. government. Like, okay, those are like, all right, what are you talking about? But it's like, I think like you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But it's just like interesting because like, I think our mainstream media is very like biased towards the left. I think it's kind of cool to find these kind of online places where it's very conservative. sometimes to a fault. But like,
no,
they're just funny, and people who
'cause
post memes are low key like you have to be kind of smart. It's kind of
you do.
I don't know. I'm making myself look so stupid, but this is fascinating to us. I think.
You're fine. I'm one of my buddies. He's been on the show before. Dan, he's gonna be one of his teammates on the wrestling team. I think makes Star Wars memes on Reddit, and he's got a mass following.
Hell yeah!
I'd kind of like to see what would happen if I got him on to talk about it, but at the same time, they're very private about their stuff, which I understand. But it's funny you say that because I was the opposite. I kind of like went from very conservative minded to being a little more moderate in the middle and trying to understand both sides. And so, it is kind of interesting the way people are impacted. And I think what you said is absolutely true about they can bring you to extremities.
And like, I think with me, like, I still think I'm pretty like progressive. Like I'm moderate, but I think I lean more progressive, but I've become more understanding of these other opinions through just being exposed to these stupid memes.
It's hard. It's confusing times.
Yeah. Maybe for you, like you've had like the liberal side of things, and I feel like your political views, I don't want to speak for you, but they were you knew quite a bit before going into it, maybe.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot to compare meme culture to, whereas someone who like never involved in politics before gets into memes. It sounds like a gateway drug or something.
I've dabbled in memes.
I've dabbled in memes.
4chan.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm done.
But that's facts though, because I'm not like with how at least my experience with meme culture and my exposure to memes. No, but like I don't go into it like I don't know anything. I'm this blank slate, tabula rasa, and I'm like, oh look, I've been indoctrinated with ultra conservative militia memes, and it's like no, but it's like
what a reference.
I'd like to think I'd like to think I'm smart enough and have enough experience with other opinions and things and views that I can look at these like these other images and not be like totally like. Yes, dethrone the United States government and destroy like the government officials of the United States. Like, no, I'm not there. But it's like to just be able to look at it and not like totally be swayed by it, but just to be exposed to it is really interesting. Plus, a lot of them are just kind of fucking like, stupid and funny and shit, so it's fun.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a lamp and a moth.
Sometimes it's literally just like it's like an image of like chocolate milk, and it's got like, yo guys, can you hold my chocolate milk? And that's the meme, and it's fucking hilarious. It's like I don't even know.
But I want to hear your Mitt Romney story.
Yeah, we'll close on memes.
No,
memes.
Fun fact about Mitt
Life
Romney. Yeah. Oh yeah, let's close off with Mitt. So Mitt Romney's father tried to run for president, but do you want to try to guess why he couldn't run for president? Because Mitt Romney's father was born Mexican. He was a Mexican immigrant.
No shit.
No way.
When the Mormons made it to Salt Lake City and started their polygamy, and the laws started to kind of want to push that away, and finally polygamy was outright banned, they moved to Mexico. Because, again, at the time, there wasn't really border patrol. All you got to do is jump on your horse and go. And they settled in northern Mexico in a compound that is still there to this day and engages with the cartels, and they are heavily armed.
Whoa.
They are considered a small, quotations, because I'm getting this from somebody else, and I'm not totally sure of the stature, but they're considered a small arms militia. Like, they've got enough ammunition and guns there to protect themselves, and they're almost like an individual state. All Mormon. And Mitt Romney's father was born there. And so when Mitt's father was born, he was like, we got to go back to America, because they kept getting into fights with a lot of the Mexican people just around. And then cartels started growing. Obviously, they weren't at the max that they are now. I believe there's 9 cartels in Mexico last I looked. 8 or 9. But they're getting into scraps with them all the time. So Mitt's dad boots it, goes to back to America, falls in love with it, goes to Utah, does the whole thing, realizes he can't run for president because he wasn't born here. So his son ends up kind of inheriting that dream, and that's one of the big reasons Mitt ran. And it's one of those weird things that is still around today that no one seems to really know about is there's a armed Mormon state in Mexico.
And it's related to Mitt Romney somehow.
Yeah, and it's Mitt's family. Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's incredible.
is actually around. I've looked up pictures of it too. It's like, wow, okay, this is something. Like I would love to visit there. But add it to the list of crazy things I would like to do.
I think going back to Mitt Romney, it blows my mind that he was our 2012 Republican candidate, and now he's the sole dissenter in the Republican Party when it came to impeaching Trump. Like, that's how far we've come. Like, he was the face of the Republican Party 8 years ago, and now he is the complete opposite. Like, that's how far things...
Yeah, he's just been ostracized, which I think is so shitty because, okay, this is a political absolute, but we're on the Ben Griffin podcast, so we're vibing. Can I say this?
It's your show.
I guess so.
Uh-oh.
In my opinion, regardless of how you stand politically, what Donald Trump did was impeachable. Like, it was an abuse of power, period.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of how you stand, I think that should be...
I was shocked by the transcripts. Like, I read them.
So I look at someone like Mitt Romney, and I look at something that, in my opinion at least, is so, like, such a definite, like, that's impeachable, that's removable from office, that's, like, that offense. It just... I was shocked that so many Republicans still, like, kind of stayed in that lane. Because
again, it's tribal
there's
thinking.
more people who agree. Like, there's people who agree with Mitt Romney. Like, you talked about in his speech, I'm not the only one. But he's like, I just think it's so interesting how party lines divided we are, you know?
Yeah, it's not even debate in parties. It's tribes.
It's not necessarily, though, like, everyone's on the same page, like you said, Nate.
No.
I think there's just a fear of being the one dissenter, because I'm sure Mitt Romney's going to get a ton of crap.
That's career suicide.
He's done, and like everyone else is probably afraid of the same thing. But I guess the beauty of being a rebel in that way is if you had like 10 Republicans, 15 Republicans who said no, I think it would have been better off for Mitt and for all of them if there were more. So I feel kind of bad for him in that sense.
I agree.
He's the one dude.
I mean, someone's got to do it though. It doesn't start. It doesn't start out of nowhere. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah. Well,
You
change doesn't happen from the people that go with the group.
Exactly.
You know, what's that great? Is it G.K. Chesterton says, "Dead things go with the stream. Only living things go against it."
I guess so.
It's that idea.
That's a good
That's
quote.
cool.
Yeah, it's this idea that you just can't go with everyone else. Otherwise, what's living about?
And I just think like what he did
Makes it sound like I'm trying to start a fight.
I know, I swear. No, but I think what he did and how he spoke on it, I think that is so, like, impactful and so powerful. Like, he talks about, like, in his speech about it, he'll kind of get, like, forgotten. Like, but it's, like, right in my heart.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't think he is going to get forgotten. I think this is something that when we talk about the 2016 election and the presidency of Donald Trump, I think this is a huge part of it because this impeachment it was huge. Yeah. And I think what he did isn't something people are going to forget. So I just think I think he ought to get the credit he deserves, and I think he will in due time. But I think regardless of if someone being impeached was Democratic or Republican, I think someone standing up for the integrity of our country in the United States and what it's founded on, I think is really, really gangster, and I think that's really like respectable and
gangsta moment.
I don't think he should be ostracized for it. He will be, but I think there's a lot of respect that goes with that.
Yeah. I was blown away by his speech.
Yeah,
like you said, that one part where he says we're all going to be forgotten in the annals of history. Like we won't even be a footnote, and that blew me away. And I know, I don't know, just to think like all these people who feel like what they're doing is, I don't know, kind of breaks my heart. People think like they can go along with party lines and
that they're going to be, some big change maker. And really it's just a machine that kind of wastes their potential and talent.
But like, I don't know, like people feel like their names are going to be discredited, or they feel like they're going to be remembered really poorly if they decide to go against the party. But ultimately, everyone is forgotten. Ultimately, like in 4 years, no one's going to remember them. And so I think the challenge to do the right thing is what's so much more important, because that actually makes lasting change.
Yeah, that's the guy we're gonna remember. This whole impeachment will be in the history books, and it'll be all that, and everyone who voted it'll be whatever. But then Mitt Romney is a huge, regardless of what he says, there's a big asterisk by this impeachment with his name attached to it because of what he did.
I wonder, just kind of changing gears here, I think about this a lot, especially when I'm studying media or doing podcasts and whatever, that how do I first describe this? I guess we're kind of leaving history. Like everyone's written something down or had some sort of drawings. Like how are we going to be remembered 20 years from now? Basically is the question. Because we've left all of our information, fingerprints, everything, every little nook and cranny, the way other generations just couldn't have.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff we put out daily, the amount of stuff, like, just think of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm Joe Schmo from nowhere, and even I've got a podcast. Like, it's not hard to get platforms to start reminding ourselves of history, and somebody finds us 20 years from now, and it's like, oh, I barely remember that. Or, oh, that was a changing moment. Like, how do you guys think people are going to look back at this, especially with all the content that they have, all the access they have? Is this a turning point, or is this kind of an annoyance in history?
I think you got to take this one, Henry.
Nah, man, you take it.
Oh, okay. All right, we freestyling right now.
Well, I'm just like...
No,
I'm wondering if...
It's a great question. I'm just trying to process.
It's really weird because to think about how your own existence will be remembered by generations past is weird.
And let's just take it in like parts. Like, do you think the way we've been talking is I'm sensing a common core feeling of annoyance in the fact in that we cannot talk to each other.
Can't have dialogue.
That we can't have dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't matter. We are all on a different page. But at least we can have dialogue.
That's our common thread right
is
now.
something that can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there's so much tribalism and there's so much groupthink right now and kind of this virtue signaling and regurgitation of information, it becomes annoying. It's hard to have conversations. Like you were saying, Henry, is like, well, if I can't engage with you because you're just going to stand there and be like, I'm right and I'm not listening to you, it's annoying.
Going back to your question, though, in regards to mass information and history, 20 years from now, like think about how many podcasts come out every day.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
It's insane.
We'll be buried.
Small fish in a big pond.
It creates this atmosphere of self-importance, I believe. Yeah. This idea that I am going to be remembered, and like, I don't know, like think about how often people look at themselves on Snapchat, how often people look at themselves in videos, and like there's this constant image of like, people see me, I am being seen. But the thing is, since everyone wants to be seen, no one's looking. Yeah. No one's looking at what other people are really doing, I feel. And no one really cares. And especially 20 years from now, very, very few people are going to care what the average Joe did. And even though there's so much information out there, it's not going to ever be looked at.
So this is interesting because I think right now the people have platform. You don't have to be some famous athlete, some politician, some actor, actress, singer, artist. You don't have to be like an elite, quote unquote, to be like really remembered anymore because we can all have this platform. So I look at Snapchat memories as kind of an amusing example. Like it's like, 3 years ago, oh man, like junior high school, oh what a throwback. But then like what happens if what happens when we're 50? Are we still going to be in our Snap groups and on Insta? And then like, oh dang.
It's like that Xbox
35
Live
years ago,
account.
me and the boys, like, oh, there we go. What a night. Saturdays in like November in college. But is that going to happen? Are we still going to be on our social media platforms when we're like 60, 70 years old and seeing these memories from like 30 plus years ago? And I think that's kind of an individual history that's going to happen to us that I don't think we're thinking about because Snapchat and social media is such a short life right now. Instagrams came out in like it's almost 10 years old.
Dude, I just got a new platform for the show.
Really?
What'd Minds.
What's
new platform. It came out a couple years ago. It's like Twitter with intellectual focus. It's kind of cool. I like it.
That's cool. But exactly, like there's always a thing coming out. And what are we going to be on years from now? Are we still going to be on social media or what's new? What are our kids going to be on? What are our kids going to listen to for music? Like when Travis Scott's like classic, like the classics on like the radio, that's weird to think about.
Yeah.
And like one thing I think, there's a speech called the Coatesville Address. It was given in 1912. It was, I forget what it was, but it was commemorating a lynching and like condemning it. But it was a really small audience. Like there wasn't more than like 50 people there. Really small audience. But it's a really important speech. But I think there's this idea attached with things are important if a lot of people listen to them. Not necessarily true. What we're doing now is important. We're having dialogue and we're just talking. That's really important, and that's historic in a sense. Everything that people are doing is historic. So even though there's not an audience, these things are important. And right now, how history can be recorded, we can have a record of these small moments. And I think that's really huge for going forward because we don't see, oh, look, the I Have a Dream speech, the Gettysburg Address. We don't only see those. We see stuff like this too. potentially.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Potentially.
huge.
Yeah.
That's just a possibility. So I
I
just
think
it's,
going back to what you said too is really interesting, that because everyone's looking at themselves, there's just not going to be time to look back at what's going on now.
Mhm.
I do think this will be one of those decades that kind of is, in a weird way, it's kind of making me think that it might be just phased out. It was just so much crazy, so much happening from 2010 to 2020.
Man, dude, a lot changed in that
A lot
time.
changed.
Whoa, dude, Barack Obama was in his first term in 2010.
Yeah, dude. We were in.
It's so
we
weird.
were. I was in middle school. Yeah, I was still. It was my first year of middle school.
I was in like second grade.
Wow, I'm old.
Oh,
What? How old are you?
Second
I'm
grade?
22.
I was 8 in 2008.
Oh, I'm talking
No,
2010.
2010.
Oh.
I'm saying 10. Start of the decade.
I was down.
Yeah, I was a lot older than you 2 years early. No,
I was like, wait.
I forget you 2000ers are so easy to figure out your
2000s.
age. Yeah.
Wait, are you 2000s kid?
Yeah, I'm 2000.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Ah.
Are you 1998?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm right at the beginning.
I-
Beginning
okay.
of 88. I was
you're,
right
You're
there.
not a 90s kid. I'm
You
sorry.
know, I agree
No,
with Henry.
I'm not.
Oh, I was born in the
When
90s.
does the
kid.
millennial thing start? It's kids that grew up in the 90s.
I thought
and millennials.
96 was
Was it
like
the
when
cutoff?
Gen Z started.
That Gen Z.
Or
something.
95, like mid
Something.
90s.
We're not millennials. We're none of us are millennials.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah. You got to be like 28
Yes.
to be a millennial,
Yeah.
I feel like, or
Not old.
older.
Almost there.
Oh, well,
Isn't that weird though? Wait, no, you're gonna say something.
I was going to have a question.
What's up?
shoot.
Do you think technologically, this is kind of like, whoa, where are we going? But thinking about history and like
Welcome to the
social
Ben Griffin podcast.
social media, how much has changed in the past 10 years, is our technological advancement, and maybe specifically in regards to like news and communication and like how plugged in we are, is that just going to increase exponentially,
I wouldn't be
indefinitely,
surprised.
or are we going to go off a cliff soon?
What I'll say is this. I think with technology, I think it's going to be taken into the hands of the private citizen.
Yep.
I think rather than get these big companies like Apple and Microsoft that are kind of taking over, I guess Amazon will still be the one because Jeff Bezos has his group. I mean, they just got the Apollo 11 boosters out of the ocean because Jeff Bezos was like, I'll pay for it. Well, let's go get that.
Strange.
So I think
Flex.
Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and kind of the drive they have to succeed. I really like what Elon's doing, especially with his SpaceX program. They've never really been able to keep up with what they've been saying, but they've got incredible stuff that they're not fully showing off yet. But I mean, Elon believes he'll die on Mars. Elon truly believes he will die on Mars, and not uncomfortably. Like,
That's
we'll be
cool.
able to get there. He'll have food. They'll be able to kind of start a colony, and he'll be able to pass in peace. Like, that is a full belief. And I don't want to be like, you're crazy, but the journey takes 3 years. I think that's the place that's going to be jumping in the next 10 years is
Yeah.
we've got all of this incredible technology. Communication has never been easier. Now that communication is easier, are we going to actually improve our means of living? And we're going to kind of jump from once we get back from living, then we're going to go back to technology. I think it's all going to be interwoven. But I mean, I just saw a rocket take off. It went straight up into the air, hovered, and then landed on its tail fins. Can you imagine getting on a rocket and just going up just high enough, not into space, but just into the atmosphere high enough where you're in the air for maybe 3 to 4 minutes and you're crossing oceans? It's just...
That's insane.
I think that's what's going to happen with technology is I think travel is going to be pushed. I think space is going to start becoming more of a focal point because of the way, like, we're getting back to the beginning, we're wasting so much. They've been looking at asteroids and mining asteroids for years. I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to go out and try that, to try to go beyond Mars to the asteroid belt. I don't know. At least that's the sense I'm getting right now, but I'm reading all of, like, the scientific journals and hearing about that type of technology. But I think a lot of what's going to happen is kind of, again, going back to Musk, who was on JRE. You're already a cyborg. You got your phone. You just got really crappy processing. If I ask Nate to look something up and he types it away, he's basically a cyborg. He's looking up stuff. He's integrated with the technology. I think that's only going to get less and less, like, you're going to become one with it. I wouldn't be surprised if we have chips. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I really thing I'm looking forward to the most. You guys can say this though, is the automated transportation. I think in our lifetime we'll see drivers disappear.
I would agree.
And I would look forward to that greatly.
Although I think there will always be an option for a driver.
I would love to. I love driving.
I think that's going to create so much problems though.
How
economically? So? We're going to lose so many jobs that way.
That's true.
It's also the same idea as like
innovation always happens like
but
that.
I understand that. I think it's true that we've got more people now than we ever have. But at the same time, it's like the iceman. That used to be a job, is that you took care of ice.
You deliver milk.
Delivered milk.
There will always be a place, and technology will always kind of displace people. And I mean, I'm trying to hop in like a car and just kind of vibe, and on my way to CSV, just do nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Get that class reading done like 5 minutes before.
Oh, dude, don't even start.
But no, it's just there's always. I think it's interesting how there's always a flip side. There's always like incredible innovation. Oh, but what's this going to do for this job market? There's always kind of a flip side to everything. What is that? Isaac Newton or something? Equal and opposite reactions?
Yeah, that's a law of physics. I think that's the first law of physics is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
But yeah, I think that applies to everything in life. There's always an opposite, politically even. Like going back to kind of this thread, there's always the opposite opinion.
I'm impressed, boys. We're on theme.
I know, we have a common thread.
We have a thread.
Dialogue.
Okay, here's a dialogue story. No, this is cool. This is cool actually. So you guys, do you guys know Eric Putnam?
Yeah,
heard the name.
Yeah, he's a professor at SJU.
Yeah, he's a comm guy. He's genius. He's running for state senate in District 14. And he's just incredible because he's so focused on people. Not just getting people to vote for him this one election. Oh, here's a group of people who can vote for me. Great, I'm in office and whatever. His energy is just so authentic and genuine. And a story he shared with us, he was door knocking. He went to this lady and she was super, super, I don't want to say conservative, but she was super not like Democratic. And he's running under the Democratic Party, the DFL. And he talked to this lady, and she was like, she wouldn't open his door for him, and she was like speaking through this little crack that she cracked door, and she's like, but like the Somalis, I just can't stand the Somalis in St. Cloud.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So she's got some like pretty like jank views, you know. That's not something to mess around with. And so he was talking to her about it, and she was just talking. They were talking. He talked to her for like an hour and a half, and by the end of the conversation, she had the door open. They were talking, and she had a yard sign for him at the end of the conversation, and she was a quote unquote Republican, and I think that's just and he wasn't. She was just frustrated about the lack of authenticity that was going on. And she felt like her voice wasn't heard and all that, and by just having a talk, like just talking with someone, she was really swayed one way just because someone actually listened to her. So. As we've kind of gone on this common thread of dialogue, I just think that can be so powerful.
Well, that's what it's about. That's the big thing.
That's just how it is. Caring about people, not just numbers, but actually caring about people. So I was just thinking about that this whole time. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah. You don't always have to be right. You just got to go out with the best intentions.
Exactly.
Want to help people. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, this gets super kind of corny and cheesy and metaphysical, but we're all just on this rock trying to do our best. You know what I mean? Like, we're all just trying to figure it out. And I think realizing that we're kind of all in this together is really important. So even going back to climate change, like, this is our home. This is our place. Let's be able to come together to actually defend it and to make it better and to improve on what we have instead of just infighting and being at each other's throats over some dumb stuff, you know? So, yeah, this is cool. I like this common thread we're going on right now because it's so applicable to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm trying to just, like... No, I'm impressed, boys. I'm impressed. Usually when Nate Dogg's on, last time Nate Dogg was on, he goes, we were talking to Visco, and then he goes, hey, you want to hear the one time I almost died? I was like, what?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I almost died this one time. Great.
He caught me so by surprise.
Yeah, I was on one last time. I can't lie. I tried to sound really smart, and I was like,
I don't know why you ever would, because you're talking to me, and I'm certified idiot.
Literally. No, this self-deprecation humor is so stale. It's so dry, Ben. I'm sick of this. You're fucking smart. Stop it.
You say that, and then you walk into my trap.
Enter the cult of Ben.
Dude, I may start one. I've gone way too deep with this sometimes. Like there's stuff that I've gone into. Like I've been to prison.
Like
I wasn't deep.
Have you like been arrested?
No, I was there studying.
When you said that, I was like, "What's a story?"
No, that's right. I didn't tell you this.
No,
I've been to prison. Just drops that, moves on.
All right, guys. So
I thought
sometime
I'd
I was
said-
in prison.
Okay.
We're gonna take
I
this
thought
on.
we talked about this before the show. Oh, sorry.
You just
No,
dropped-
I did a paper when I was at UW Superior, and Superior's got a lot of problems with heroin and speed, and one of the
Really?
big problems in Duluth in general, that whole area is having a big problems with drugs,
Mhm.
homelessness, poverty.
Yeah.
So crime and usage is going up, and one of the big things that's happening is a lot of kids are going to juvenile.
Yeah.
And so I went, and I decided I was a part of a criminal justice course, and they said, would you be interested in doing this study? You'll go in, you'll report what you find, and blah, 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 and it's really cool. And because I was one of the only guys, they said, you're going to go to a male side of the juvenile hall. I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll do it. So I kind of went alone.
Wow.
I went in for maybe an hour or two with my class, and then I just stayed there all day. And it's the largest open prison. It's Arrowhead Penitentiary, and what that means is when you walk in, it's like a normal prison. You have your main door, you're buzzed in. You walk in, then you're buzzed through second door once you pass the warden's office, and that's the booking room where they pull in with cars if you're arrested, and you go through that. You have your isolation zones if they're coming in with some sort of on a high, or they're medicated, or they're just not cooperating. You're buzzed through a third door. You walk down a hallway, and that's the school. And then at the end of the hallway, there's two doors, like a Y. To the right is the boys, and to the left it's the girls. And then once you're through that door, everything is open. So when the cells open at 7, the cells are open all day.
That's cool.
The mess hall's open. There's no walls. You can see everyone in the mess hall.
Can boys and girls intermingle?
No,
Okay.
because the girls are too violent at this one. At least that was what I was told at the time. I got lucky working in the guys because apparently the girls are worse, which is kind of weird because they're considered men's prisons are really bad and women's prisons are bad, but they're not as bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of
That's
reversed in juvenile, at least from
Fascinating.
my experience. And
It's all the Visco girls.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, that was
'cause
really insensitive.
I still have to do that where I was going to post my own Visco white girl account.
There we go.
And I was going to be the white girl. But no, I just hung out there. You could play basketball. There was an art area. The security office was right there. So they have like a glass tube like they sit in. And so they can just look and see you. I think the only door in the open area was they had a shower room that they opened for an hour. And there'd just be somebody in there. But yeah, these kids would go to school. They'd go to the mess hall. They'd do their thing. And there were 16 of them. And they were some of the...
Only 16 boys?
Yeah, only 16 boys.
Okay.
So it was a manageable group. Like I learned a couple names and stuff.
Cool.
But my big thing was I basically did this. I talked to them. I tried to learn a little bit about them. I learned who they were. And I just remember it was kind of like I was sad. You know,
Yeah.
I was sad because a lot of these kids are like 14, 15, 16 years old. And their parents are just abusive and all of this horrible stuff I won't go into. But yeah, I was in there. And then I went back and I went into the girls' side of the prison because they have these cells that the girls can... They let me stay in a cell for like 2 to 3 hours. And I just like sat there and read and I was bored out of my mind. But that was a good experience. And then I interviewed 2 level 3 criminals, so a sex offender and a domestic violence guy, who were coming out of prison, and they were sentences more than like 8 years. It was a certain year. It's been a while. But so my whole angle on that was, what is it like to go to prison and come out and, you know, your iPhone 3 has like 56 updates, you know, like these guys have been away for so long and technology has passed them up. And they barely can get a place to live. And now they don't even know how to access all of the different websites and opportunities that they could use to get a job. So I did this full report on those kind of 3 topics: isolation, kids in prison, and reentry of prisoners. And so I spent a lot of time in incarceration areas and holding cells with people just to get to know them. And it was just like pure curiosity. I was like, I'll do it. What the hell, you know? You might as well take the risk, and you may learn something. And I did. I learned a lot, and it definitely gives you a perspective of humanity a little bit. If we want to get a little cheesy here, but I definitely saw my perspective of people had changed very much, especially people in poor living situations like Superior, which has a huge heroin problem, and the kids that are living there. But yeah, that was a cool experience. I was trying to find the paper actually last night, but I can't find it for some reason. I gotta get that thing. It was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I presented it to the psych board and the criminal justice board.
Nice.
Did pretty good. Had a
Yeah.
lot of fun. My professor was really nice. So yeah,
That's cool.
it was. I went to prison. That was Ben's trip to prison.
That's cool. No.
Mm.
That's,
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who have not been to prison. I think that's
Yeah.
so cool because I don't know, we all have this idea of who prisoners are and what they must have done to get there, but very rarely do we actually interact
Yeah.
with people in that setting. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool, and it's just important because that there's just such an assumption about if you are this, that means you are that. You know,
Yeah.
we have just such a blanket assumption of what a prisoner is, why people like of felons and criminals, and like at the end of the day, like I mean, like we're saying, it's people. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of humanity, and
Yeah.
I knew a guy who was in federal for 5 years, I think, and you just hear about the stuff that goes on, and you're just like, it's just so dehumanizing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'd like to think we're better than that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's getting in there and kind of understanding it. It's really important work because that's such an underrepresented group in so
Yeah.
many ways.
No, it is crazy. I went to Shakopee has a really, really awesome system. It's called drug court, and you
Mhm.
can go in there just because it's a courtroom.
Yeah.
It's public space. And I sat in there once. I heard about it, and I can't remember the judge. I didn't expect to talk too deeply about this, but I can't remember the judge. I just remember his first name was like Greg. Very nice guy. Drove a Harley. Never expect this judge. He had tattoos and everything.
That's cool.
Looked like Dog the Bounty Hunter if Dog the Bounty Hunter was a judge, Just really nice guy, kind of down to earth. And had at one point been incarcerated. I think he went to law school and turned it around. And
That's awesome.
his program was, I'm going to basically bring these people in and kind of have group therapy. And it was called this drug court. It was a weird situation. And he had about 20 people there that all suffered from different things, men, women, and the women's prison is in Shakopee. So there were a lot of female criminals there who were like dressed in the blacks, Excuse me.
You're good.
But he basically gave them a turn each to come up in front of him, and they just talked about what their big situation was, and he was blatantly honest. Like one of the guys worked for a sortation group, sorting packages, and he had a real big problem with meth. And I'll never forget, he just kind of was like, listen, man, you're either going to have to figure out which is more desirable for you. Do you desire meth and living, this kind of hopscotch lifestyle, or do you want your family, do you want the love, and do you want the support? And he just goes, most people will choose the meth. And that was the first time I had ever heard like that answer of, this is the path that most people take.
Yeah, just being straight
And to be that harsh and say like, statistically you're probably going to choose the meth. And this guy was like, I can't. And he said, come back next week, talk to me in my office, and we'll just keep working with you, and we'll try to make you the best out of it. I saw one kid go up, and he was no older than me. He was maybe 22, 23. And he was just having problems. He was with theft. He would just steal stuff. And his sentence was he had to work on his grandmother's farm. And he apparently wasn't doing a very good job. So he asked for the family to come in. And he had the family sit in the front row and in front of all of the guys on that, like the bench that were sitting with him, because he's now starting to know him. He's been there a while.
Mm-hmm.
He's having problems with weed possession and all this minor stuff and theft. He's just not taking the proper steps. He has to apologize to his family. But on top of that, he has to turn and apologize to all of those prisoners, which was, I believe, was fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Because not only does he have a responsibility to fix his life and get back in line for his family, but for his community too. And these are the real people that you have to remind yourself of. Why we walk the straight and narrow is because we need to help the people that can't too, and the people that depend on us. And he had to turn and apologize to these 20 plus people that have made bigger mistakes than him, and apologize and kind of hold this value of, you know what, I am a member of this community and I have a part to play. And even for the lowdowns that many people would consider to be, whatever you want to fill in there, they're just as important a part of the community as anyone else. Absolutely. And they deserve as much of an apology for your mistakes, even though they've made them. So that was a really amazing moment to see, and I'm hoping they're still doing it. But yeah, it was incredible. Like, that whole experience in criminal justice and law was awesome. Fun fact, I really wanted to work for the FBI for a while.
Really?
Yeah, really wanted to. I was always comfortable at crime scenes and stuff.
Interesting.
That criminal justice course, they brought in crime scene photos after the cases had been closed.
No way.
And let us see.
That's really cool.
Yeah, one of the cases was a woman, they thought she was like raped and killed or suffocated. Turns out she had like this crazy rare brain disease where the oxygen was starting to close down and her brain changed colors and it started to turn green. So her vision started to narrow and she could see less and less and less. And so her life towards the end, she was bumping into shit, knocking stuff all around. Her house was a disaster. She couldn't get in and out of bed. Her, like, the skin that she had bruised really easily because the oxygenation in the blood wasn't happening. Yeah. So it looked like a rape and a strangulation case, and it wasn't.
Wow.
And the son broke in through, like, the front door, and the door had just been broken, so the cops found this crime scene, and everything pointed to this specific case. It turned out to be completely different.
That's
so
crazy.
We got over a week. We walked through every day, or every other day, because of college classes. And this officer would come in, a detective, and he would throw these pictures up on the whiteboard, and we would be like, I think it's this, and theorize because of this, and here's the curtains are torn. Look at how the bed sheets are ripped off. That shows struggle happen, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you're all wrong at the very end. And it was this great, like, teaching moment of, you can see all of the facts leading to a conclusion in a logical place, but sometimes there's just one thing. There's just one minute detail that you might as well check out. And the thing for them was, what is up with the weird bruising, like all over like her back and all this? Is this really what we think it is? And they opened up her head because she also had a ton of medication. Minnesota apparently is like world famous for its autopsies. I had no idea about that. Yeah, it's like
Weird.
top 4 or top 5 in the world.
Wow.
But they opened up her brain and they found out, her brain is like being strangled. It's not getting enough oxygen.
That's crazy.
So we were almost able to put together what her life was like for like the last 3 months.
Wow.
And again, just like, whoa, this is insane.
It's wild that no one like told her to see a doctor or something.
I think she was told to see a doctor, but her son tried to get her to go and she just was not having it. And then she started to medicate and she wasn't on top of it. And then she would jump back on. And then that little gap that happened where she wasn't taking her medication, things got worse. And all of a sudden she can't see. She can't see as much. And my mom's got a great line where, I love how we reference our moms. It's so wholesome. I love it. But she goes, nothing ages you faster or destroys you faster than vision, like loss. So once the vision goes, personally, that's, rest in peace, Brother Hillary. But he went at the right time because he wasn't able to read anymore.
Wow.
And that's one of those big things. Yeah, he lost his vision. And I think that's a big thing. When you lose one of those main 5 senses, it's really, really hard to kind of come back. I won't say like touch is one that you can go out of.
That's huge.
But like eyes is just, your brain and the way you perceive the world is, once you lose that, there's a little something that's kind of just, I don't know, it's crushing a bit.
This is.
You can use the footstool if you want, Henry.
Oh,
it's don't worry.
It's okay.
I love that you just,
Thanks.
The old dormitory studio. Yeah, there you go. There you go, boys.
Your boots are so big.
Oh, yeah.
Big feet.
Big dude.
Go. But this is I don't mean to compare this lady to like a dog, but this is a comparison I have.
Here we go.
Well,
Don't
no,
worry,
this
we're
is
not going down a rabbit hole.
When we're talking about natural causes of death, it is really reasonable. People get upset with me a lot when I say like the big thing that is compared to people is pigs in autopsies because the heart is the same.
Yeah,
it's a 4-chamber heart. So it's okay. Don't worry. Again,
so,
welcome to the Ben Griffin.
I'm not like agreeing like this woman is a dog. No. But so I had a dog. he died when I was like 4 years ago when I was sophomore in high school. But his name was Bongo.
Oh,
shout out Bongo.
Great
I love
name.
Bongo, man, in my feels. But towards the end of like, he got beat up a lot. Like we got him. He was a shelter dog, so he was kind of abused and neglected, and he was like. So when we got him, he was still a crazy active dog, and he always like. He was always like running around like the lawn, like chasing squirrels, killing stuff, and he would just like run around and like beat himself up. He just run around, running into shit, falling all over the place, doing his thing. And he was cool. But there was one time when I always kind of mark this as like when Bongo started to get old, but he was like running around to get this squirrel, and he like tore the equivalent of his dog ACL. So he was like on 3 legs, and like that's like, dude, that's the weirdest expense, a surgery for a dog, because it just has to be out of pocket. So he was like that until we could get like the money, which was like a month, and we got him fixed up and he was fine. But he started it when I don't know why I shared that. I don't know if it's related, but the Bongo story is important, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he like started to get old, he had diabetes, so we had to like give him insulin. We had to like give him shots every morning, and
that's real love right there.
Dude,
that's real love.
He had to have this special food, so my mom would order this really like these huge bags of this really expensive food. Shout out to like Chewy though, they were like the supplier and they were gangsters. They'd like send like free ones every now and then just because like they were gangster. I digress. But then so there was all these needs, and then he had congestive heart failure, so he had to have like another like vaccination on top of the insulin with that every morning, and like.
Dude,
he was like
provoking the Marley in me thing.
No, he was like at the end. Towards the end, he had really bad cataracts, so he went blind and deaf. So he had diabetes. He was on the special food. He was super beat up, and like he was blind, deaf, had congestive heart failure, and like holy crap, dude was like he was beat to hell. But like the morning, because we were kind of debating like when we were gonna like put him down, because like he was like it had been a long time coming though, but he was like. Yeah. He would like it sucked because he would like run head on into like corners, and it was like no Bongo. We'd have to like carry him upstairs and down. So we were like, dude was in a bad spot, my man. But my mom was no, it's a hell of a thing. He's like boink. I was like no Bongo. My mom would take him out for walks, and he would be able to like follow the sidewalk and the trails and stuff. But toward the end, this is just a cool story. He was like, so he had a beard. He was like a Jack Russell Terrier kind of mix. He was just a mutt. But we had this like cool looking like log we found. It was like this big, and it was really cool and like twisted, and it was sick. We had it on the deck, and he was like, my mom took him outside on the deck, and he was just like hanging out, and then he like sat down, and he like put his head like on like the log, and he just looked so like wise and somber. He looked like a wizard. And he was just like it was like you know in the end of The Last Jedi when Luke Skywalker's like meditating and he's like projecting himself to like fight Kylo Ren, and then he just kind of fades away. That was like Bongo's like Luke Skywalker moment. And then she went and took him to get put down. I was like, damn.
Wow.
But when he lost his vision, that was when you were like, whoa. Because when you're like, Bongo, come here, and he couldn't hear you, you just like see him and then he comes to you. Like, all right, whatever. Yeah. But when you lose vision and when you lose that, it's like that changes everything. Yeah, it's crazy.
Nothing ages you faster.
And like it's so weird to think like our eyes are so fragile. Like this is our window to the world, and it can get out like that.
Totally.
It's weird. It's like kind of strange to think about how, like going back to my Guatemala story where I almost died. Yeah. Our bodies are so versatile and strong, but in the same token, they're so fragile.
Yeah, that was insane.
It's crazy.
I got some weird letters about that. I'll have to show you at some point.
Dude, let's go. But no, I don't know where this is just a cool little tangent, but
that is a good story.
Like, thinking about like our bodies and their function and what they mean, it's crazy. Yeah,
we take vision for granted, especially I think. Like a few days ago, I think, just like in class, my eyes started to do something really weird where like, do you ever have that where you look at a bright light like the sun and then it's kind of burned onto your retina for a little while?
Oh yeah.
I had that happening, except like it was a larger area and like it wouldn't go away for about half the day. Really weird. I don't know why that happened.
Strange.
But like constantly I was just reminded of like, oh man, that's really annoying. But I realized I never think about my eyes on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. It's just like something I totally take for granted. And like you said, they're so fragile. Yeah.
And like I have my eyes are all weird because I had this surgery when I was a kid. It's like infantile esotropia, so that my left eye would just like it doesn't really work. So I only use my right eye because like everything's really blurry. Like I can't even read your like your Barcelona stuff right now.
Oh yeah.
And so like it's really bad. But my eye would just go into the back of my head. Like
Mm.
it would just like there's pictures of me when I was a kid where like eye is just white when I was
Whoa.
like really young.
Oh.
So I had surgery when I was a few months old.
Really?
But it's weird because like the only world views are so limited and like because the only thing I've ever seen is I don't really have any peripheral vision over here on my left. So the only way I've ever seen things is without any depth perception and only through my right eye. So it's like weird to try to imagine like something else until like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like
Yeah.
how we like exist in the limits of our own capabilities. Because my right eye's not very good. I can never like read the board if I'm in the back of class. My mom's gonna hear this and be like, "Oh my god, Nathan needs to get glasses. We need to figure this out right now." But it's just interesting to think how limited we can be by our own physical like being. And it's just fascinating because we never think about it. Who's gonna think about, "Oh, my eyes work today"? It's just like, okay, that's the norm. I can see, but not for everyone.
Yeah. No.
It's crazy.
Can I? We come off bongo. I
What's up?
want to ask. I want to ask a happy question.
Yeah, that was. We've been kind of on a
You
bummer
bum me
streak.
out with bongo,
Oh.
although it's so deep. It's just like, oh yeah, good old wise bongo.
This is a based podcast right now. We're on some real shit. Ben
But-
Griffin getting real.
Dude, yeah, I have no idea. I cried on one podcast once, so thank God you can't hear it. But
Oh.
yeah, I cried on one. I was like, damn.
That's
But that was cool. I had one of my very good friends. He's performing today. His name's Levi.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he'll be performing today. And he was just kind of going into like his passion for music and why he wants to teach it. It was like, oh my
That's
God,
really
it's
cool.
so profound.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't get moved that often, but that one definitely got me.
That's awesome.
But no, I was gonna just ask, how the hell did you two meet?
Hmm.
Like, cause I met
I
you.
don't
I
really
met
know.
I don't
Henry through RAs, and then I bumped into you through classwork.
Yeah, we were in comm last semester, yeah.
Yeah, and I also knew you were a runner, so I feel
Mhm.
like I've crossed your paths because I used to work with UW Superior's track team.
Oh, yeah.
So probably at some point I would recognize the long locks.
You already know.
Yeah.
I got that
but-
haircut, though. Changed.
Yeah,
mine.
it looks good.
Thank
You're also
you.
rocking the Steve Jobs turtleneck.
Bro,
It's so good.
You already know the Steve Jobs turtleneck. Let's go.
It's so good. It's so good. But do you guys remember it? How exactly? Because that was a big thing to me to invite you guys on together.
I have no idea. We just kind of appeared. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it kind of culminated in the music ministry retreat we did. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
knew.
this
I definitely
semester.
knew you before. I don't know why. Okay, you're one of those people who like is a friend of a lot of my friends.
Yeah, I feel like we're in like similar circles. Like
But
kind
there's
of,
never
we're-
been like
We're kind of like a Venn diagram. It's like here's us, here's the friend we both know, and it's like, oh, cool.
yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like one of those
And like
peripheral
we both do like
recognitions.
we both do like music ministry of St. John's, like student
Mhm.
Oh,
mass.
okay.
So
Mhm.
Oh,
there's
that's
kind of that
right. Yeah, I
connection.
see you guys
Yeah,
there once in a
but I
while.
think the music ministry one is big.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had this one day retreat where we just if you're into music ministry and you want to find like-minded people, I guess you
Just
go
had
to
that
it.
whole day
And,
retreat.
yeah, Nate was there, and I feel like since then, pretty much any opportunity I have to talk with you,
Yeah.
I kind of take. It's always a good conversation.
Just have like a little lunch at the Reef or dinner or whatever, a little something,
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you
cool,
guys.
though.
I think I saw you guys on the first. Well, I saw you when we came back for training in
We were both
RAs.
here early. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I
we
bumped
all
into
were.
you guys in the Reef, and I saw you guys talk. I was like, idea.
Oh.
Yeah.
Eureka.
Yeah, because I wanted to have you back on because I shouldn't say you. I'm looking at Nate because you've been on
Mhm.
before, and I wanted to get Henry. You've been on the list for so long.
I've been
Henry.
waiting, man.
Top of the list, baby.
Literally,
Let's go.
he has been on the list for probably since mid-October.
Oh dang, you've been
Dang.
a long time coming. This is a
Yeah.
historical moment.
Yeah, it's a very. Yeah, I need to get a
A
plaque.
lot of weight right here.
Wow.
Got to get a plaque somewhere. No, I've just been horrible at getting people on because it was, you stumble out of the gate, you're
Mhm.
making mistakes. You're always like,
Figure
is this
something
the
out.
right move? Is this the right
Yeah.
person? And I had a lot of them. Like I said, I think before the show, I told you that I have a lot of unaired stuff too.
Yeah.
I've got like about 5 hours or 6 hours of stuff that I haven't posted
Yeah.
that just, and that's a whole week of planning and it's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And that happens. But
Is what it is.
it
But
gives
I think
reason
it's
to
kind of
get
cool
people.
how people you can, because like I don't know if there's like a moment because I've always kind of known Henry. You've always kind of known each
Yeah.
other, but it's never been.
It's just
like,
one of those
this is
static
when we met.
friendships.
It's just
Yeah.
kinda like we're both out here at St. John's,
Mhm.
doing our thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, that's fair. That's good though. Like it's just like just always got along. Just always worked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always
What's
try
up,
to
baby?
yeah. I try to remember that. And most of my friends I met on the first day of school.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like when I transferred here, it was all people
Really?
in my hallway. Yeah,
First day.
Yep, most
Wow.
of my neighbors
That's cool.
are my very good friends now. I'm friends with people from all age groups. Like I'm a senior, but I don't know a lot of seniors. I know like maybe 5 or 6.
That's cool.
So,
That's nice though.
Yeah, it is.
It's like one thing I really like about being like part of like cross country and track and like the Bonner Leader program is like you're kind of removed from your silo in the sense because you're
Yeah.
like you're friends
Mhm.
with everyone, like all classes, and people were in a ton of majors, and it's just kind of cool to kind of be able to have that kind of like music ministry is big, like kind of this
Yeah.
more diverse set of interests within your friend group, because it's easy to just be like, oh, we are all this and this is how it is.
Mhm.
So it's like it's cool to kind of have a diversity and like lived experience, which I think is pretty
Yeah.
gangster.
Yeah,
So.
that's so important, and I guess tying it back to dialogue.
Let's
if you-
go.
If you have
Tying it
friends
back to
from different groups, if you have friends from different interests, you're naturally going to be more open, I feel like, to
Yeah.
dialogue because you're not all on the same page and you're
Oh.
not in a bubble. You're not in your
Yeah.
silo.
Yeah.
And
I-
like
I feel like if I walked by you guys with some of my friends groups, you guys would think I'm just some posh prick. Because I know I dress like
Yeah.
I try to dress nicer because
No,
you
you're
take
flexing.
pride
you're on that
in like how
Pico
you
life.
look. Oh yeah, I love that.
It's
color.
it's respectful.
Yeah,
it's not
I
over
just-
the top.
I just
Exactly.
want to make sure like I look good for people. You know,
do
when I
be
first
looking good.
introduce myself to folks, and then I'll be walking by with like my brother Isaiah, and he's got like shorts on, wearing a hoodie, and
Nah.
it's snowing. And it's -12.
Yeah,
we went to a
man.
hockey game like that. Like I was dressed like
Attaboy.
because I just came from class, and then he's dressed like he, you know.
Going to Sexton.
He's
so that's
chilling,
7,
yeah.
10, 15.
It's funny. You get those polar opposites kind of happening in belief systems, and you really feel good about.
Facts.
I don't know. There's something satisfying about it. There's something satisfying about knowing that you're friends with people that, you know, you wouldn't be friends with maybe 5 years ago.
Okay, this is a total pivot, and it's gonna make no sense. But I think I've been thinking about this. And
Why do you
Here we
think I
go.
have you guys on?
It applies to dialogue. It applies to dialogue.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the new Star Wars movies
What?
because that is so divisive.
Okay.
And pivotal within
Henry-
within the
Henry,
fan base.
I said hi to him when he was doing a little
That's-
personal workout.
workout,
I
yeah.
was shooting around at the courts and I
Balling.
saw him. Yeah, I was having a harder night that night, but
You're looking good though. This is what?
that's all that matters.
Yes, sir.
That's all that matters is looking good. But he came up to me and probably within 2 minutes, like, "Hi, how are you? Has your day been good? Yes. What'd you have for breakfast? Can't remember. Did you see the Star
Did you
Wars
see Star
movies?"
Wars? Did you see
And I'm
the
like,
Vice-
oh,
Did you
my
guys
God.
know each other?
Yeah, this
Okay,
was.
okay.
I interviewed him first semester, and this was
we
the
were in
beginning
a
of
comp
second.
class together. So
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, with daughters, respect.
shout out Carol.
Oh my God, I have her this year, and it's a blast. She's my capstone.
Yes, Carol.
And it's
Queen Carol.
awesome.
Let's go. Love it.
But he came up to me and he's like, "I don't get the new trilogy Star Wars hate." I'm like,
You don't get the
Okay.
hate?
Bullshit. I don't buy it. for a
he
minute.
he had this rabid look in his eyes, Henry.
Really?
I just get off. I just go crazy.
I'm surprised.
I understood like a couple of your points, but like that's it. I understand where you're coming from.
I just think it's so okay.
why don't you
All
elaborate?
right.
Because
Okay.
I'm cutting you off.
There's tremendous groupthink in how we go about things. New Witcher series, for example, actually kind of shit, but everyone thinks, oh, it's so good. It's not actually that good, like from my opinion. But I think there's this assumption that this is good. We're all gonna like this, and then everyone kind of follows suit, you know. But no one really looks at it critically. Like with Star Wars, right? I understand the criticism and I agree with some of it, absolutely. But to be critical of something doesn't mean you have to hate it. So like, let's look at like I understand that the hate of the writing and all that stuff, but to be able to experience, this is just me being a Star Wars fanboy.
I feel like you need to come over here and sit on the therapy couch. That's literally what we call this thing now.
It might need to happen. But to be able to experience a new Star Wars trilogy and to have that trilogy be the culmination of the Skywalker saga in theaters, to experience it in its element, that just, come on, that overshadows the criticism for me. Like Rise of Skywalker is not a worse movie than 1, and it has a worse Rotten Tomato scores. I don't buy it. So I just think there's this really harsh groupthink about, like, being critical of the movie is one thing, but everyone's like, this is trash, this fucking sucks. And there's been this kind of group polarization towards this movie's complete shit. And it's not. It has problems and it has shortcomings, but it's not as bad as people say it is.
Well, what kind of shortcomings do you think are in it? Like
think
just
that-
put me in your mindset of what you're seeing.
Okay. The biggest thing, they should have done one director for all 3. They
I
should have
agree with
kept
that.
J.J. Abrams
Yep.
for all 3, in my opinion. Because Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker connects to Force Awakens more than it does to Last Jedi, which isn't how it should be. So bringing in Rian Johnson, no.
Personally,
What are
I
you doing
think
with Disney?
either you have JJ for all three, or you get a different director for the third. But they did
I
the
agree.
worst case scenario,
Yep.
which is they have JJ for the first, to bring a new guy who changes everything. And they're like,
Yeah.
bring JJ back, and he's like just tries to fix
He
it.
tries
all.
to fix the whole movie.
And like, okay,
Yeah.
here's it just gets so much deeper because you look at someone like Rose Tico in a character, which is huge for like Asian representation in movies.
Rip.
She's important, but then everyone's like, she was okay. Let's look at this from a, like objective standpoint. She was unnecessary. You can't take your like classic Star Wars trio like Rey, Finn, and Poe, and
Yeah.
like then the droid. Like you had Han, Leia, Luke, and like in the original trilogy, and like you can't take that three, establish them, and then throw someone in like the middle of the trilogy because it makes no sense because then you have to develop that character, and that's not what the middle movie is even supposed to be about. So it was just so weird to introduce her then because she could have been so much more. And then the only logical thing to do in Rise of Skywalker was to like quote unquote write her out, which I think was necessary because she wasn't like she wasn't providing anything. She was kind of unfortunately baggage in the story, and like and that's not because she's a bad character, but that's because of the decision to give Rian Johnson so much agency of the second movie. So that's the criticism I really am with.
Yeah.
But all this stuff, like, I mean, when I get in that theater, when I get in and I watch a Star Wars movie, I just love it. I just eat it up. I'm totally consuming. I'm just like, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. I love it. And like, I don't know. I just look at it kind of even more like abstract in a sense, but like looking at like how people have responded to the movies is so fascinating because like people hated the prequels and now people love the prequels. I think the same thing will happen with these movies. In like 20 years, people are like, wow, we really didn't give those movies enough respect. And I think a lot of people just hate them because Disney bought Star Wars too. And people are like, fuck big corporations. They ruined my childhood. And I think that's kind of a weird groupthink that's going on.
Yeah.
There's also the group think on the other side, which is like Disney, like anything.
Praise
they-
Disney, consume,
A little
Baby
bit like,
Yoda.
oh my gosh, every book they put out, I have to read. I have to watch all the
Yeah.
TV series. I have to be up to
Yeah.
date. It's a little like, whoa. Okay, you can enjoy the movies. I don't know if you have to go that far.
Facts.
If you find one of these unicorns, bring them in.
Yeah.
I would like to talk to them.
We just got to exist in the middle. That's where I'm at. Because, like, Disney, big corporation, kind of evil. Same with, like, Google and, like, Apple. You know, there's a little, like, the corporatocracy
Nefarious
in the United
activity.
States. Yeah, that's some real shit, you know?
Uh,
But it's like, just because Disney owns Star Wars doesn't mean I can't enjoy these movies. But I think
No.
there's this deeper idea of, like, no, we
Yeah.
cannot like Disney. We can't like this. They ruined
But
it.
you know the craziest thing is it's not like people won't support the movie. They still go see the movie
Exactly.
multiple
Yeah.
times just to shit on it.
Facts.
like-
So it's like, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's like, well,
I agree with your idea of like, it's an enjoyable movie. Just have fun with it. I think that's what they're for. My big gripe is probably it's similar to you with Rose. I didn't mind her as much. I just didn't like the Casino Planet
that
part.
was so pointless.
I
They
didn't
just need to
really
give
get
Finn a
that.
love interest. Bullshit.
Yeah,
No, they
and
don't.
I didn't like all their casting choices.
Yeah.
Particularly she's from Jurassic Park. I love her.
Oh, Laura
Hell,
Dern is Haldo.
I love Laura Dern. Like
Yeah.
love her.
That didn't make any sense.
But I didn't get that casting. I love her in Jurassic Park. Like I don't know. I don't know how to say that.
And,
I
like,
just
that
I wish it would have been
What?
somebody like Ripley from Aliens because you could buy that. It was like you don't
Yeah.
fuck with this person.
Yeah.
But there was just some choices along the road that I didn't really get, and I knew I was probably part of the problem. Because I grew up like you guys. I read the Star Wars lore. I got used to the idea of what happens after episode 6, and I had this preconceived from reading the books and doing all, being a nerd of what I expected. And I didn't like what they did with Luke because it was against what I had known since I was little. And coming back, I harped like everyone else. Like a big part of the reason I think the movie failed is because guys like me, Star Wars fans, said what they wanted. And then when it was put on screen and there was so much going on and there was so much dialogue and so much exposition that it felt kind of empty. Like the story just felt like, okay, here's another Star Wars movie. The first one I'll say I enjoyed a lot. Like the
Yeah.
first one I really enjoyed. The second one was kind of the low point for me, and I haven't seen the last one.
Yeah.
For me,
But
it's
I know
a
what happens.
slope down.
Yep.
First one, solid. When I first saw it, I was a
I
little
liked the first one a
rip
lot.
off, but then the more I've thought about it, it's like, well, sure, it's a little too much like A New Hope, but it's a well-crafted movie with some good acting, entertaining plot.
Yeah.
It-
The Ben
it's
Solo
solid.
storyline is great.
Yeah.
Yep,
Adam Driver carried.
Yeah, he was
the
good.
whole whole thing. I
So
think.
good.
Last Jedi, major disappointment,
Mhm.
but also like there's pieces of it I like the Kylo Rey connection. I thought was pretty
That
smart.
fight scene in the throne room Hell yeah.
That was really good.
There's some cool pieces to that movie, and I think kind of some bold choices that may be a little too bold, but like at least it's different. Like killing Snoke, you can hate on that, but I remember in the theater being like, "What just happened?" Like that blew my mind.
That's what I'm saying.
That was a high point. The parents thing was the big one that let me down in that movie. Like
I
they
feel
built
like they
up
should
this
have
thing.
ran with it. I mean, it's a bummer, but like then to be like, "Well, just kidding, it's Palpatine."
Yeah,
Sorry
they
to spoil that,
no, I knew about that. It was weird because they did this like they were nobody and then they were somebody. It's like, oh, now we're in Emperor's New Groove all of a sudden. Okay.
Well, it's, the thing about it though, I'll get back to plot stuff, but like everyone goes out of this movie and like, okay,
or Hercules. Sorry, that's
it's
where
like,
the reference is from.
No, you're good. It's like, wow, that was like so lame. That was such a disappointment. But I'm like, you can't tell me you were in that theater like, oh my god, he just killed Snoke. You know what I'm saying? So like,
well, that's it.
That's
you
the thing.
still
Like,
have
I
fun
still
with them.
enjoy those movies in the theaters. I have a lot of fun with them.
I didn't have that with Rise of Skywalker though. I
Did
was
you
bored.
really? What?
Really?
Here's the thing.
I
I
was
came in
on
hoping just
one.
for like utter ridiculousness. I was like, I don't care. Like, I just want to have a fun time. Like, I'm not really here to critique the movie, but
I want to
it
see an
just felt
X-wing.
really shallow and like not interesting.
I will get hate for this.
I
The
feel
Rise
bad
of
I haven't
Skywalker is my
seen this now.
favorite one out of all of them. I loved it.
From reading about what goes on and everything, I just felt like it was a lot of like nostalgia hit points, which can cause something like this. When you're talking about like the reason you love it is, well, let's bring back the old villain, let's kind of recycle some old ideas, and then let's throw some new stuff in there that no one expected, and you either love it or you hate it.
I mean, there was some bullshit though, like Palpatine having kids, never even mentioned.
I didn't
in the
really
Clone
get
Wars, in the
that.
prequels,
Yeah.
in the original trilogy. That's such a cop out.
I didn't even like that they recycled him. I wish that it could have been more like, I don't know, maybe this is the point where we start to lose each other, where we start pitching movie ideas. I
Yeah.
did this with Spider-Man 3 too, once upon a time.
Mhm.
But I wish that they just focused in on the battle between Ben and Rey, and they just kind of isolated that weird connection that's kind of been teasing in the background. And will Ben go good? Will he not? I don't know. I just felt like the recycling and the drama of the issue just felt like I'd seen it before. It didn't really spark this new sense of adventure. It felt like, okay, the rebellion's just going to keep going. Like, we're just going to extend that 6th movie to the 9th. But I don't know. Again, I haven't seen it all the way through. I've just read the
Dude,
scripts and all that.
Do you care if I spoil it?
No,
I need to go hard right now. At the end, when they kissed, fuck yeah, I'm all for it.
I
it was
thought
so
that was
good.
awkward.
What?
Ah.
Okay, no. Hear me out right now. Okay, that's not like romantic. There's no romantic connection between them. This whole Reylo shit, bullshit. It's not real. So, okay, let's think about this. After what they've gone through in the past 2 movies and this movie, the tension within each one of them and between them and what they did and what they've been through, they just killed Emperor Palpatine and like Rey just died and he brought her back to life. The only okay emotional response is that. Like, wow, let's hug. That's like some G-rated shit. Let's give each other a high five. The emotional response isn't there. Like, imagine if that just happened and Kylo and Rey just hug. It's not the same impact. So when they like kiss, it's like there's like it's like in the SpongeBob movie when the heart when the thing when there's like the tear, you know, the I'm a goofy goober and it brings them back to life. It's the same energy because it's the only proper emotional response. And like it's kind of such a redemption for Kylo Ren because his whole life he's been a Sith, no love. I killed my fucking dad. Like, oh god, he's so much pain.
He didn't want to be in
And
the
he
franchise.
he has like, and there's this moment of really awkward like physical intimacy. It just works. It makes sense for the characters. If anything,
God.
that's like a high point in the movie. In my opinion.
I agree.
Oh, what a
I don't know
what
if my
a
reasoning makes sense.
what a oh my god.
Can you imagine that though? They hug.
I just can't believe
then they're
you
like,
got
wow.
Goofy
No,
Goober
I'm
in there.
I'm on board. When that happened, I was like, oh, like it's a good feeling.
It's a good vibe.
And then he dies,
I
and
know.
I was like, what?
He said,
like,
ah, ha ha, I'm
that-
that out.
That did not feel right. And even if he did die, they have to like address that. They just move on. It's like, okay, he's dead. Let's go. I'm like,
Fuck
whoa,
Kylo Ren,
okay.
fuck Ben. Like, what are
Yeah.
they doing? They need to give them my respect.
It was a weird Romeo and Juliet thing going on there.
Yeah. I just like, okay, I don't know if it was my favorite one. I just get really caught up in Rise of Skywalker because I remember how I felt when I saw it and I was like so like, I was so like in it.
Wow.
But it's like, I don't know why, but I was just, that movie, I was just so on board. I was all for it.
I was like that with Last Jedi, but then
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw it a second
Last
time.
Jedi
and I was
got,
like, I don't
yeah,
know.
no, I feel that. But like, I don't know. I just think it was more well done than people give it credit for. But yeah, I don't know. I think, but like going back to how people think about it, Like, it's just such an extreme absolute. Like, these movies are trash. Like, they're not. They're not that bad. Like, you can make an argument about
They're
Last
not
Jedi.
Clone Wars bad.
They're not Clone Wars bad.
Like,
They're
episode 2 bad.
You know,
That
but
was
like,
considered the worst.
I just think, like, is there criticism? And are they not very good in some regards? Absolutely. But we don't have to go immediately to the space of just utter hatred. Because I don't think they deserve it. I think all the actors and actresses did a wonderful job. Like, it was incredible. I just felt this connection to the characters and the overall story. It's just the hero's journey. Everything is the same story.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. I just had fun with them.
It's sad that the stakes have to be so high because they're just films.
I know.
Yeah.
And they're films that aren't meant to be taken that
At
seriously.
the end of the day, they're
I truly
kind of kids
believe.
movies.
I agree with you.
At the end of the day, they're kind of meant to be like kids movies.
Yeah, and even the
essentially.
original, like the original is a excellently done movie, but George
Absolutely.
Lucas wasn't like, I'm changed in the game of film. He's like,
no.
hero's journey.
He
You know,
just wanted to make
fantasy,
one.
It's just the
warriors.
execution of it was what was revolutionary. Like
Yeah.
the story wasn't anything groundbreaking. He just did it in a way that
Yeah.
was groundbreaking.
Yeah. And I always wonder, every time I see a movie now, especially just from studying some films through our comm department, one of the requirements is you study film because it carries a lot of culture.
You take someone with Luke Mancuso?
Love him.
Yes.
Benjamin.
Oh
I
my.
love him.
Groundbreaking. Oh my.
I want you to watch this scene, Benjamin.
Benjamin.
Okay. Whatever
We're
you
gonna
want,
do that,
man.
Luke.
Yeah, he talked to me. I would love to have him on the pod. That'd be awesome.
Oh my
He would
dude.
be
I was in FYS with him.
phenomenal.
I could pull up.
You-
I want to interview with
if you get him, I'll get you the equipment and everything.
I'll try to pull up. I'll try to let him know.
Oh God,
cool.
he
Alright,
knows who I am
I
too because
digress.
I worked
though.
with him.
That would be sick. What's
No,
up, though?
but I wonder how much studios are now involved, especially Disney.
Yeah.
You know, it would be interesting to see after that first movie and they changed directors if they increased their amount like of persuasion and reasoning they wanted on the movie, and it just kept growing the further into the trilogy to try to save
Mhm.
because of the bad reviews. I don't know. It's just something to look at. That's one thing about movies that they don't track usually is how much sway a studio gets. That's what happened to a lot of the Alien movies. Like Alien, masterpiece. One of the best horror movies ever made. Space, cinema, sci-fi, everything about it was phenomenal. Aliens, second one, masterpiece in action, sci-fi. Third one, still, it was good. It was very, very good. It just didn't hit the marks that the other ones did, but that's what sequels are, right?
Yeah.
And then you get your AVPs, you get all your weird Predator movies, you get Resurrection,
So strange.
and you realize, oh, the studio came in hard here. I can't remember which Aliens it was. It might have been 3. I gotta go back. My memory is awful right now. But they basically threw out like 2 full scripts before they landed on that movie.
Really?
Because there was a logical like end. I think it was the third one because like I don't know if you guys have seen those movies.
No, actually.
There's 2 characters in the second one that kind of make it out
Mhm.
with Ripley. So there's 3 of them all together. It's this little girl named Newt. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. I forget his name. No, it's a soldier. It was played by
Oh, I know who
Paxton.
you're talking about.
Paxton was the guy who played him.
Is it Paxton Lynch? Is that the guy's?
No,
I don't know.
John
That's
Paxton.
a quarterback, I think, or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, he's from Northwestern.
How did I know that? That's so weird.
Yeah, Northwestern quarterback, got drafted by Denver, and they threw him in there right after the Peyton Manning era. No, but basically what they did is they're like, we're going to have Newt back, we're going to have all these 3 characters kind of take this little family and continue, and that was the script, and they had this whole script for 2 full scripts, they had that. And then the studio by the third one's like, you know what, kill them off. So all of a sudden, you open the movie and 2 of the main characters are already dead, and it just changes the whole feel of the whole movie. So
Yeah.
it really is interesting to see. I wish they could track how many edits studios make, because I bet it's more than we suspect.
I think the problem with big studio movies now, especially Star Wars, and probably other franchises too, is that they listen too much to the fans.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Last Jedi was such a response to the hate that Force Awakens got, and
It was even worse.
yeah, Rise of Skywalker was in a lot of ways a response to the hate that Last Jedi got. And it's just trying to please. And the problem is, in doing that, you're not thinking of what's the story we're trying to tell. Like, why are we making these movies? It's just like, how can we make fans happy right now? And it ultimately results in something that's really disjointed and
Absolutely.
it feels like it doesn't have much of a purpose for being. there.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the
Yeah.
movies. They're
I
not
agree
bad
with you.
movies. It's just like, there's no plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like with the Star Wars movies, the story's so weak, so lame. The stories are strongest in the prequels. Like that's actually really good stuff, like story wise. But like with the new ones, like I guess to kind of put my critique to rest, like I just don't think they're as bad as people think they are. But they're only good because of the spectacle they are. The story is the most shallow thing ever. It's like it's third grade shit.
Which
In the
trilogy?
sequels, the new ones,
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's just shallow story, basic, whatever. It's just like the original trilogy reskinned. But I enjoy it because the spectacle it was in, and I don't think you should go into a Star Wars movie looking for like a masterwork in like cinema because it's a Star Wars movie. And yeah, but I don't think they're. If I had to rate them, they'd all be like B pluses. They're all like they're pretty good, but like story's not there and story is king. But I still enjoy them. I don't know though.
What's your favorite movie all time? I'm just curious now, because you're.
I'll give you my top 5
Oh boy.
in no particular order. Marriage Story, which I just saw, which is really good.
Oh, another Adam
Arrivals.
Driver movie.
What?
Another Adam Driver movie.
I think he's the best actor in the
Okay.
industry right now. So Marriage Story, The Artist, Cool
Okay.
Hand Luke, Arrivals.
Arrivals.
Yeah, isn't that what it's called?
Arrival.
Is it Arrival
With the aliens?
with the big heptapod things?
Yeah, Arrival.
I thought it was Arrivals. That one. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then this next one's hard because there's like a lot. But I'd have to go with probably District 9.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's a
That's a
really
good
good one. And then like honorable mentions, like I mean, Clockwork Orange is incredible. I really like Big Fish, even though it was kind of a corny one
Oh,
with
okay.
Ewan McGregor. That was really good,
He's one of my favorite
dude.
actors.
He's so good. And then like I don't know. I can't think of anything right now. Silence was really good with Adam Driver.
I wanted to see that.
Yeah, I only watched like half of it, but I don't know. There's like, so I like having done Luke's class. I've seen like a lot of like really good stuff, and like
Mhm.
Star Wars doesn't match up at all to like Arrival or Marriage Story, anything like that. But it's still good in its own regard. But yeah, District 9 though, Neil Blomkamp's incredible. But yeah, and then I remember I watched The Artist and Cool Hand Luke. In my AP.
What are those movies?
The Artist, it's a silent film that was released in 2012. Actually, it won Best Picture. But it's about this actor, super famous. I
Is that
forget
with
his name.
Philip Seymour Hoffman?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It was John Goodman. He was in it. He wasn't the main. He was one of like the main guys.
I can look up the cast because I think I recognize.
Yeah, but it was
him
a
being
black
in
and white silent film released in 2012 about the story of this guy who's a really famous actor for the silent film industry. And then when talkies came around, his career just declined. So it's a silent film about the death of the silent film industry. Just
Dang.
really fascinating. It was just a really well done.
Wow.
So that was cool. Arrivals I saw in a $5 theater with this girl, my junior year of high school. That was really cool. Her name's Jamie. Shout out Jamie if she listens to this. But that movie's just incredible. Cool Hand Luke, I watched my AP Gov class. Or no, AP Gov, AP Lang. And that scene where he was eating there's a scene where he eats 50 eggs. On like
What
a
is Cool Hand
dare.
Luke? I don't think I know that movie.
So it's with Paul Newton, I think. Is that who it is?
Newman?
Paul Newman, yeah, and he's like, he gets arrested and he goes to this like chain gang like work prison in the South, in like the 50s or 60s, and it just kind of follows him through the like this little prison. It's really really great movie. And like I watched that with my class, that and The Artist, so we're just so into it. District 9 I watched with my dad, my brother. That movie is just like a trip.
Yeah.
Like when it's just such a good social commentary. And yeah, what else did I say? What was my fifth one?
Oh shoot, I should have been writing this down.
Cool
Cool Hand Luke. Yeah.
Cool Hand Luke, The Artist. Marriage Story.
Marriage Story. Yeah, I'm surprised by that. That's
That
a new one.
movie, just the intro scene of that was so like incredible. But yeah, but no, like I think it's weird because I think people take Star Wars and compare it to those things, and it's like
Star Wars compared to that?
like there's critical,
Oh.
like really well done movies
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So you
yeah.
take Star Wars and compare it to these masterworks and like acting and like cinematography and just cinema, and it's like, well, you can't really compare them because Star Wars is about blowing up in
Yeah.
lasers and lightsabers.
No, it's an entertainment film.
Exactly.
Do you have any, Henry? Or do you
I
more?
do.
Yeah.
I do. I know there's some that I'd miss, but what comes to mind is 12 Angry Men.
Great movie.
Oh
Love
yes,
that
1957.
movie.
yeah.
I saw it for my U.S. civics class back in like high school.
That is
So
a
good.
phenomenal
That movie was well done.
Yeah.
It's
That's
great.
that's a movie that like brings you in purely just based on like the acting and like
Yeah.
what people do.
'Cause it's just like a
there's
play.
no spectacle.
Yeah.
It's one room. You
Yeah.
never leave that room.
It's all in the actors.
Insane.
So good. And I love the scene at the end where like the one guy who thinks he's guilty just breaks down. It all like builds up to
Yeah.
this, and finally he just like can't
Yeah.
hold it in anymore. But Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid I saw recently.
Oh, really?
That
Never
Paul
seen that.
Newman's in that.
I need to watch that.
It's really good.
Might as well just start a list.
It's one of those movies that just kind of like doesn't have a clear arc. It just kind of goes. Like you follow
okay.
these characters and then it just
Yeah.
ends when it ends.
That's sick.
I recommend it.
That's cool.
That
That's
sounds
the way.
familiar.
It's cool because like I think it's really cool watching because right now everything in theaters is like Disney, like Avengers, Star Wars, boom, blowing up lasers. It's like okay, so watching like film and like cinema, really good stuff is just really. It's cool to like. It's refreshing to see Adam Driver really ply his trade instead of just be Kylo Ren. You know what I mean?
What's funny though is movies like Marriage Story, definitely not like a blockbuster film, but Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was like a huge hit at the time. Huge movie, but like very slow paced, definitely not action all the time. I personally feel like big blockbuster movies have changed a lot to cater to a more
Definitely.
like short attention span audience.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because like now, I mean, I think it's huge. Like nothing's really original anymore. Everything's most of the things in theaters are like reboots or just continuations of like Marvel and Star Wars universes. Like that's why I think Joker is so incredible. That's another honorable mention. Joker's really up there. I don't know if it's cracked my top 5 yet, but it's right there. But yeah, that movie was like such a huge risk because like. Not only is it kind of going to ruffle some feathers because it's just a really rough topic and really kind of visceral film.
Ben, did you see Joker?
I haven't.
Okay.
I didn't see
I
it.
have.
Yes, I remember you texted me about it or something. But yeah.
But no, don't worry if you have to spoil
that's
it
cool.
because I kind of know what happens. That's a fault in my. I don't watch a ton of movies
No, you're
anymore
good.
because I
Not a ton
I
of
just
time up in school.
I'm bounced.
But I think that one's cool because it's such a huge risk. Like kind of score up against these huge Disney reboots and Marvel and Star Wars and all this stuff, and then you put Joker out, and which is I think incredible, like a really good piece of cinema, and it does really well. It's cool to see like kind of the original, like
Underdog
win.
succeed.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. There was a lot of people being kind of mad about. It's a white guy who
I think
has
it's
a mental
funny
illness.
that not a lot, but a couple people kind of in like the social justice warrior circles or like far left were upset by the movie. But I think it's a very progressive movie.
it is 100%. It is. That's why I thought it was really strange that it got the hate it did because it is so progressive in like addressing these issues of wealth inequality. And I mean, some people don't like how the mental health was portrayed. I thought it was well done because, of course, it was extreme, but I thought it was still well done. But trying to address those issues of wealth inequality, mental health, the stigma, and also like the healthcare attached to it, like when he couldn't get his medication, you know.
Yeah.
So it was just really cool. But yeah, it got a lot of backlash, even though it was very progressive, which it kind of goes back to this whole beginning of there's these cliques within groups. So you have these, we're on the same page, like people like this movie because it is progressive, but then you have other people who are even more progressive who are hating on the people who are also progressive. So it's kind of a real world example of this like infighting within these like
that's
woke
basically
cults.
that's what happens with like Captain Marvel. I have the
Oh,
article
yeah,
up
that
here
was-
because that was the one that really surprised me. Is you get this person who's in Brie Larson who's very progressive, very very liberal, considered in the woke community, and she's Captain Marvel. She's one of the first female superheroes we've ever had. You know, I know Wonder Woman just kind of blew the doors off, but. You know, chance to really make a really big impact in the culture in the community. And one of the first things that happens is there's a petition that starts against Brie Larson to say if she's an ally of our community, she'll step down and give a gay person of color a chance at that role.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. That's what I was talking about earlier where they turn on each other. You know, Brie Larson is pushing that, and now they're going after her.
Yeah.
So it is kind of weird. It's a weird thing to see.
One thing in Witcher 3, I know you're playing that right now, but
I gotta play that game again.
okay, so we've all played it. Or we
Here's
know
the thing:
know
I've
it a little
played,
bit.
I've started it probably 8 or 9 times without ever finishing it. It's
Chunky boy.
so deep.
It's
Yeah.
so long. It consumes you.
Is it worth it?
Absolutely, it's worth it. 100%.
Did you play Witcher 1 or 2?
No.
Okay.
I just have received a lot of knowledge because my brother, like we were talking about this before, but
Yeah.
he's read all the books, he's played all the games, and like he's like so into it just because he like loves it. He's just so into like that universe and the story that it tells. But Witcher's another strange instance because it's almost all white. There's very little racial diversity in Witcher based on like skin color. But it's so diverse in sex. There's probably about the same amount of like strong female characters than there are men, because if you look at your lead cast, of course there's like Geralt of Rivia, like your man, and like, but then there's Ciri, there's Yennefer, there's Triss, there's Keira Metz, there's Philip Eilhart, and there's this whole lodge of female sorceresses who are like the biggest political cabal in like the continent. And it's like, so there's so much female representation and well done female representation, because I think a lot of sometimes it can run the risk of just being egotistical and self-absorbed. I think that was a lot of Brie Larson beef with her casting, just because of kind of the energy she puts out. But Witcher does that really well and does empowered women characters very well, but it's not diverse in another aspect racially, so it'll get a lot of shit for that, you know? Yeah. So it's just really interesting to see how you can be super diverse and progressive in one aspect, but in another aspect it will totally fall short. So I just think when we've been this underlying theme of like this woke culture, it's like you can never be progressive enough. In a sense, there will always be something else to do more extreme.
I would really like to do a study on it. I would really like to just go down and sit with people and just see what they think about it, because it fascinates me, because we say this from afar. Yeah. Like, I don't know if I'm not in it.
We're kind of laymen when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of white guys in a room. So take it with a grain of salt. But I would really like to see up close why you engage in that, because it's easy to say like, oh, because it makes you feel like you're changing the community, and it feels like you're bolstering yourself, and there's a lot of confidence. But I feel like there's another angle, because what makes somebody turn on people that support them? And it's the question I want to ask. What makes you say, you know, here's Henry, he's a fellow RA like myself. Well, fuck him. Like, who does that?
Fuck you, other RA.
I know there must be stuff leading up. Obviously, I'm asking it in very simple terms, but
what do you think, Henry? I don't know what I want to say to this one. This is a good
I don't
one.
think you can say anything to this.
What's the question again?
Is what makes people turn on their own supporters?
I feel like the answer is surprisingly simple, but I'm struggling to come up with it.
Yeah. I just want to sit down. Like, again, it's you just got to find these people, and you got to meet them and just see what they have to say. And
I can kind of take a stab at it. I think I'm thinking of stuff. You talked about virtue signaling at the beginning. Previously. I think honestly that kind of has a big part to do with it, because right now, for MLK, I went to the keynote. Ricardo Levin Morales. I don't know if you went to that and you guys went to that, but he talked about activism, and how activism shouldn't be narcissistic and egotistical and like self-interested. And I feel like right now it is, in a sense. There's so much ego attached to kind of being progressive and advocating for social justice, even if it's this underlying thing. I still think there's a lot of ego attached to it, like posting all this stuff on your story, like posting you at this protest, like being as vocal as you are in such like a abrasive way. I think there's a lot of like me involved in it. You know what I mean? Like me. And I think that can have a lot to do with kind of this infighting that happens, because at the end of the day, I feel like people, I hate to like generalize, but we kind of have to for the sake of like talking about big groups. But I think it goes back to that like aspect of self-interest, this kind of underlying like, oh, I want people to see me. I want people to look at what I'm doing. So it's not really for, even though you're doing something good, it can kind of take a perverse kind of motivation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really agree with that, but it's like, I think that can be like, there's potential to have that be a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, again, I don't know if there's...
That's such a challenging question.
Well, yeah, I don't think... We're not in it, so we don't know.
And yeah.
I think part of it, too, is just what we hear. Like, the loudest people are the people who are basically shutting others out.
Yeah.
And, you know, defining the group, the in-group, the out-group, and doing what we're talking about. And, you know, the people we don't hear from are those who aren't bothered by it because they're not going to say anything.
Yeah. And like I think this, like, we keep going back to this thread, but dialogue and things like this, like Ben is loving it. Like, yes, sir. Like going back to like
I can't believe for one full podcast. We've all stayed on topic.
No,
it kind of breaks my heart a bit.
Let's think about this though. We just did Star Wars. We talked about memes and like the super deep like memes of like super conservative people who believe like the Jews control the media and want to take over America. Like we've somehow tied that in, and Star Wars and Witcher.
Don't
and
forget
dogs,
Bongo
and the prison system. We've all tied it in with this thread of dialogue, and like I think that's so cool. And I think we need more of it because, like Henry said in the very beginning, climate change, right? Mm-hmm. We need to talk about it. Yeah. Because if we don't talk about it, it's just a bunch of people yelling at each other from across the river. And that's never going to work because soon the river is going to consume us all because, well, our fucking oceans are rising and we're warming up. So it's like, let's actually talk, you know?
Yeah.
It's cool.
Full circle.
Dude, I love it. We're vibing. Let's go.
Well, no, I'm just going to say this right now too, Henry. If you want to bring people on, I'm happy to set up a panel. Because I can do I can do 3 mics or 4.
Ooh.
And I'm happy to have people that are interested in the same topic to come on and have a long discussion, and we can send it out to...
It would be fun.
We can send it to Johnny Benny Media, and they can disperse it that way.
That'd be sick.
It would be fun to, if we wanted to go off of climate change or any issue.
Yeah, dude.
If you brought 3 people in, you got the straight-up climate change denier. You got the person who just, like, doesn't want to talk about it, who might be somewhere in the middle, and the person who's, like, a huge advocate.
Yeah.
And try to bring them together.
That'd be fun. It would be intense, but I think it'd be worth it. If I can find those folks, I'll definitely try.
I feel like we always surprise ourselves somehow. Yeah. Like when you get in the room with someone and people are in the space to be like persuaded and be able to hear someone out. I think some really cool stuff can happen.
Yeah.
Like
no, definitely.
We don't give ourselves enough credit in that sense. And we don't give the people around us enough credit. You know what I mean? I think we're all smarter than we think. You know, especially you, Ben. God.
Oh,
Jesus.
Oh, I'm an idiot. You fool.
Well,
No,
I think you have to approach things knowing that you don't know the whole truth, and I just have to constantly remind myself that because, believe it or not, I used to kind of be stuck up and think I told my partner.
I actually don't see it. I
in
can't
crime,
lie.
Vincent. He works on another podcast under our crew. I don't know what you call it. I don't know if this is a network or a conglomerate or what the hell we're doing.
Media conglomerate.
I helped him set up a podcast and I help him out with that stuff. But I was telling him about this idea of it's almost like the smartest guy in the room syndrome, the I'm the man syndrome. Mm-hmm. And coming from Superior, I definitely felt that way because I was doing really well in my classes and I just didn't feel challenged.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you're kind of a dick.
Yeah.
And so I just try to remind myself because I failed so much. And I was talking to you before the show about all the stuff I tried to do and I didn't work. And it kicked my ass enough to prove that you just got to settle down and you got to be willing to learn and walk up and remind yourself, I don't know the full thing. Even if I've been doing this, I'm the only guy on this campus, I think, that is self-taught in podcasting, that's doing his own stuff.
I'm almost positive.
I'm an independent. I don't work with Johnny Benny Media. I work with them, like for the news group. But in this, I had to kind of do a breakup. All the best. Like, it was the best thing for everybody involved. But I think when you walk into a situation like talking to Henry and talking to you, I don't know the full truth. And I probably never will. So don't approach it like, oh, I know Nate Dogg. I know what he's about. Because you just don't know day to day what you're going to
it's always
find.
Dynamic.
And if you walk into a conversation self-reflective, and that's usually what I mean by when I say I'm a certifiable idiot, is I'm an idiot because I need to constantly like reevaluate myself every day. You just got to keep keeping yourself in check because you run into folks and you find stories that if you're not self-reflective, you won't be pliable and you won't be able to take those lessons and use them in your life. A lot of the really good lessons that I've learned are from realizing that I missed the big moments like most kids got. Like, I won't go into them too much because they're kind of personal and that's not probably the best to share on here. But people, like Henry said, you have these folks that are very closed off and there's folks that believe that this is just the way this is how I present myself. I'm proud of who I am. It's very plausible to be proud of who you are and know that there's still room to improve.
Absolutely.
Every single day.
I like it.
And it's kind of that mantra. If you can make a man smile, you've changed the world. If you can just make a man smile, you can change the world. And if I can sit down and have a nice conversation, be open and thoughtful about it, and try to entertain an idea that I've never thought of before, then I've done something to help the world. Like, I've made a big enough difference in my life that I can go around and try to apply that another way. And it doesn't have to be big. It can be talking about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, I really think people get caught up in grandeur a lot.
Absolutely.
And that's what I like to say that line is being a certified idiot is an awesome thing to me. Like, it gives me space to work. It gives me so much momentum and room to expand and chase what I want to do. I got involved with cults. What logical human being would get involved in cults?
Scientology mailing list.
Yeah,
Did
like
you really?
yeah, I'm followed by them on a mailing list, and I'm considered an SP, a suppressive person.
Oh.
Yes. No, but that's why I say that line. It's a good thing.
Cool.
Being a certified idiot, we're all certified idiots.
I like it. I like that.
It means you have the ability to go after and chase things that you don't know about, and you're comfortable being vulnerable and learning and applying yourself to new stuff. But yeah, that's what I mean by that.
Going off of that, I like that as well. I think it's so important to accept we're not always right. You know, no one is right 100% of the time, even the smartest people. But we're not always wrong either.
No.
And you have to be okay sharing your opinion, sharing what you believe, knowing that, yes, you have something worthwhile. Like, you have experience worth sharing. But when it goes up against something that might be better, or if you are wrong on that front, be humble about it. And it's not a personal attack.
No.
And you just grow from it. And it's so hard for people. I think people either want to think, I know what's up and spread the word, or they feel like they don't know anything and they can't talk about these things.
Yeah.
But we can all have conversation about it, a little give and take.
And the
It's a
movement of the
balance.
goalposts of reality, too. When you say something totally out of left field that somebody's never had any experience with, it's kind of frightening for folks.
Yeah.
It is interesting when I get people to sit down with me and we start talking about something that they don't really have experience with. It's like, this is not an interview. Feels more like an attack. It's like, no. The reason I'm asking you this is because I want fresh eyes. I want new minds to set their eyes on this. But yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
Okay.
You were going to go
This
somewhere with
is
that.
incredible. But I think there's like, I like what both you guys are saying. And like, it reminds me of this marriage story, marriage story. So in the beginning, there's like,
He says that so smooth. He's just like, and now, marriage story.
Marriage story. But like when there's a scene where oh crap, what are their names? Charlie and what's the other girl's name? Why am I not? I can't remember. Whoever Scarlett Johansson plays. This is a sin. Oh no.
I'll look it up.
Give me a minute. Thank you. Yeah, hook me up real quick.
Yeah.
I can't remember this. It's a girl who Scarlett Johansson plays.
Okay, one sec. Oh my god! And I look up the cast and it doesn't even say her name.
No. We're having technological difficulties here.
Nicole Barber.
Nicole. There we go.
Is her name?
I knew that. No, so in the intro spot where it's like things I love about Nicole, things I love about Charlie. They're reading things they love about each other. And this one thing Charlie says about Nicole.
Oh, Laura Dern's in this movie. I might have to watch it.
Yeah, she's really good.
Okay.
In this one, but
It's like the cast from Star Wars.
It
Dude,
is.
really
I
cool.
love it.
It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
I'm gonna have to
so
check that out.
He's like, one thing I love about her is like, whenever someone asks if she's seen a movie or if someone's talking about a movie or a play, she always, if she hasn't seen it, she just says, I haven't seen it, but I'm always like, oh, I don't know, or I haven't seen it in a while, and make something up. And I think we all do that. Like, it's like, oh, hey, like, have you seen like Cool Hand Luke? And if, let's say I haven't, I'd be like, oh yeah, I watched it a while ago though, so I don't really remember. I think there's such an uncomfortable aspect of not knowing. So this simple scene in Marriage Story where she's like, whereas I make something up and say I haven't seen it in a while, she just admits like she didn't know it. I think that's really important to be like, you know what, I've actually never thought about that before. But I think nowadays we're all kind of like, oh yeah, like I kind of know what you're talking about, even if we don't. So we kind of have this facade up of we already know. And like, I think to be able to prod and to have these new ideas, and like you said, even if we don't know the whole thing, still contribute. But like you said, but know that we don't have the whole thing. Yeah, and we probably never will. We never will. And I just think it's cool to like be able to entertain and introduce. Like nowadays, it seems like changing your opinion is like a loss, quote unquote. Yeah, dude. If you're changing your mind, that's good because you're learning stuff. No, like I said, I came out of high school more conservative minded, and I wasn't even political. I didn't even know what the hell was going on. But it's about going out and engaging with folks that you're uncomfortable around, and you never know who's going to end up being your best friend.
like Daryl Davis in the Ku Klux Klan. His best friend was in the KKK.
Yeah.
And my best friend ended up being a member of LGBTQ, and I came out of conservative Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's so interesting for me in terms of being shaped by your perspectives being shaped by the things around you? Personally, for me, I've been shaped by the opposite of what belief I have, and I'll explain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I went to a high school that was very, very liberal, like super progressive, and I grew up pretty liberal. My parents are kind of, and that experience shaped me definitely to be way more conservative. And I would say I was on trajectory to probably, if I like continue to stay at that high school, go alt-right or like heavy conservative.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Just like being in that environment really made me kind of hate liberal ideology. But then 11th grade, I moved to a public high school in St. Paul. And I think that, not to say that like that's a conservative place, but it was just politics wasn't a part of things. And I think that changed a lot. And then coming here, being in like a Catholic university has really shaped me to be like kind of appreciate my urban roots a little bit.
Yeah.
So like it's almost like I have the opposite reaction to
that's cool.
things.
You have balance, which is so
But
nice.
I don't know if you guys
both.
have had that, like, because I thought like, oh, if I go to a liberal high school, I'll probably, join their ideology, or if I go to this Catholic college, I'll probably, like be more Catholic and whatever. But
one thing I think you have that I think is really cool is like I think both of you guys are like smart enough to not just like be like, I'm in the stream, time to go with it. You know what I mean? Like there's this cognizance of ideology, of like the presence of ideology, and you know it. So you don't just hop into the liberal high school and become, boop, I'm just going with it, There's like such a cognizance of what's going on around you, and you don't just consume it and eat it up and just, it doesn't become you. You take account of it and you apply it how it will be applied to your life. So I think that's something about both of you guys I think is really cool, because you have the cognizance to not just be sucked into it, but to actually think about what's going on around you. And I think it's a little more rare than I think I'd like it to be. You know what I mean?
Well, it's scary. It really frightens me when I go out because, I was at Superior. How quick people are willing to kind of conclude their ideologies for another, just to kind of fit. And, I get walked out on by people that don't understand. I just don't like alcohol.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed because they could be here. They could be helping me now.
Yeah.
They could be some of my best friends. And I could be helping them out with all that sort of stuff. It really does close you off. But, yeah, no, it's... I hope that people learn that... We were talking on... I believe you're on the 9th one I had of these.
Yep.
Something like that. I'm sorry, I lose track of all the hours I have. But yeah, we were also talking about taking your self-image from the images out there on the internet and what you see outwardly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that happens a lot too, is that you're just not going to run into a guy who's 6'3", has curly hair and a beard and looks kind of like a really hot lumberjack from a modeling group.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
I'm glad
Ben.
you knew who you were. But you're just not going to find...
Let's go. We gotta rock the flannel. We should have flannel uniform.
Oh
my God!
Oh, boy.
Like a lumberjack biker gang. We run on vegetable oils, boys. No, but it does frighten me sometimes when I see some of my really good friends who I know are brilliant, who have really good ideas to offer, and who definitely have had an impact on how I see the world, kind of hide and would rather just kind of fit in. I don't know, but I'm also guilty of that. I do that all the time. I'm self-conscious about it. Every time I walk through the reef, I got my headphones on because I'm scared of talking to somebody and making a fool of myself.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess that is a point with that.
I don't know how much time we have, but I do.
Oh, dude, we got plenty. Do you guys want to take a break? Let me know too, because I know we've been going.
I'm chilling, dog.
Maybe like.
If you want to, yeah.
You want to take a quick break and then we can jump back into this?
I kind of have to go pee.
Okay, so seems fair. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. But I have an idea that we can
come back to it.
Hold it.
It has to do.
Hold it, not the urine.
Teaser, okay?
This is a teaser in the radio stations. All right, then we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back in right now. See, we're fast.
There we go.
Okay, Henry, let's get back to this.
Okay, so you were talking about how it's sometimes hard to. Maybe this wasn't how you put it, but socialize with people or always be ready to have that discussion share your
Yeah.
views. And you talked about how, like, walking through the reef, sometimes you're wearing headphones.
Yeah.
You're just not ready to communicate. And something I see a lot of, and I'm sure you both have seen this, is people wearing AirPods in particular, or just any like headphone set pretty frequently to avoid conversation. Maybe not to avoid conversation, but just that's like become ingrained in their daily life walking around.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that personally, I don't want to say scares me, but maybe does bother me a little bit. And I'm wondering what you guys think. Is it maybe like a loss of human interaction? Are we losing the opportunity to connect on a daily basis?
Oh, I definitely think we're losing it. I think it's individual, though, on how. The big thing that I realize is social events aren't as social as they used to be. Eating dinner is not as social as it used to be. Going out with your friends isn't as social as it used to be, in weird ways. Like, I've been in tech circles. I've been, I've done that. I have to put my phone down when I'm with people.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I know I get self-conscious that I'm looking like a jackass. So I definitely think there's something to that. I think now with the smaller technology and the more discreet stuff gets, people think they can get away with more. But the big thing I also worry about is genuine, like being genuine when you're at the table and when you're with people. Because I feel like not just technology, but this would be a very different conversation if I was looking down at my phone and just talking at you. And the generosity of your time kind of dissipates. So I don't know. I honestly don't know if the more technology gets pushed, the harder it's going to get to communicate. I just think that regardless, it's going to become less authentic. It's going to become more like disposable conversations where people are just catching up with you on Snapchat because they've got a streak score.
The thing that always blows my mind is the phenomenon that is like Snapchat streaks. People will, I just see people. I just have this vivid memory of biology class my sophomore year. I was sitting next to this girl, and she was like scrolling on her phone, and it was just snaps, like scrolling, just like hundreds of snaps from people. And like, that's so strange, because then I would see her go through really fast each one, just with a picture of her face. And like, that is our interaction. It's just keeping the streak, and it's like, it does seem so disingenuous. I don't know if is that a word? But
disingenuous.
Yeah,
yes.
but it just seems so artificial, because it's like this streak is what is it's my friendship value, and I think that's weird. Like, to see this person just go through and just send just respond to 50 plus people within like 30 seconds is crazy to think about.
It's interesting to see how like friendship is now being. This is going to be a hard way of saying it, but volume of people that you know is so strange now. Because I remember when I was younger, because I'm at the right age. I don't know about you guys. I'm a couple years older than you.
You're 22, you said, right?
Yeah. So
Okay,
what,
cool.
3 years older?
2.
2.
3.
Okay. 3.
When's your
Okay.
birthday?
July 20th.
Oh, almost there.
Oh, okay.
Not
You're
really.
right next to my sister. Like,
Wait, my brother's July 25th.
Is he going to turn 19?
No, he's 17, 18. Holy
Wait,
shit.
I'm going to turn 20. Sorry. I'm
Yeah.
not that young. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I was gonna say, like, I remember when you're little, even as an adult, I remember seeing my mom only had maybe, you have maybe 5 to 6 really good people that you hung around with, and you knew other folks, like you had friends outside, and you could be very social, and that was the thing, But a very social person might be having accessibility to maybe like 20 people, like that was a big group, 20, 25 maybe. Now it's like 50. I have contact with at least 50 people a day. And do I really know who they are? Do I know who their parents are? I call it like the dating mind. Like when you run through like your dad's dating mind of who is he? Who's his family? When is this? Blah, blah, blah. Like in the mind of the father of the bride kind of thing. You don't know jack shit about anybody on there.
Yeah.
And it is kind of interesting, the amount of volume. And again, going back to it's not you. They don't really know you. They're not accepting of you. They don't really have anything other than they just want to be followed like everyone else.
Yep.
And we're looking at ourselves.
One thing you said, generosity of our time.
Yeah, that's huge.
So powerful, I think.
Yeah.
Because in our current culture, like Nate was saying, the people on that snap streak got half a second of time.
Yeah.
Like,
Doesn't
what is
mean
that
much.
worth? Like, nothing. It's worth
Yeah.
nothing, in my opinion. And like what we're doing here is, we're making a sacrifice to be here. We're taking time.
We are.
Time is in some ways like a value higher than money. You can't.
No.
You can't get any more.
No.
And
you can't.
it's a beautiful thing to take 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever that time is, and say you are worth giving that time up. That I could be
Absolutely.
doing something
Mhm.
else, and we're losing that, I think, a little bit.
And I think
Yeah.
it's strange with like volume of what you have, because right now it's quantity over quality. It seems like, and it's just so strange, like, because I just remember that happening, and I was just like, that's such a novel idea, but that's kind of the norm, because now it is like how it's how many Instagram followers you have, it's how many people saw this on like Visco, it's how many people Snapchat every day, it's whatever, and it's just such a strange thing. It's just a strange idea to have friends but to not. In my philosophy class last semester, when we were talking about like the 4 types of love, philia is friendship,
Yes.
and the C.S. Lewis, who wrote the 4 loves, he kind of unpacked them. He kind of made this point that a lot of people go through life not having any friends, because what is a friend? It's some guy you followed on Facebook. That's called a friend now. So our definition is so loose, and anyone can be a friend, but how many people can actually be like a legit 100% real friend? And that seems like such a rare breed.
Yeah.
Because we're so stuck in Snapchat
Yeah.
and the streaks. So it sounds kind of depressing, but I think that lends itself to this topic of what friendship really means. Because you just need, I don't Snapchat anyone, but I have some people. Like I have you guys, I have my cross country guys, I have like my brother, I have some
You
really
have it as the
great
medium
people.
to keep up with people. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. The folks that use it as kind of it's almost like a marketing platform now.
It is, actually. That's a good analogy.
Yeah. But no, I understand how you use it.
But then the problem is not the problem, but the reality is almost everyone uses it, and I think we're all on the same page that a lot of the time it's pretty meaningless, that connection, but very few people are actually saying, okay, then I'm just not going to do Snapchat, I'm not going to do Instagram. We still do it. And so when do we cross that line into meaningless territory? Like, when is social media beneficial? And like, when do we get something out of it?
Yeah, I know personally I don't benefit from it anyway. And I'm thinking about, well, right now I'm doing this experiment in communication with Professor Berg. And we're basically studying and tracking the rates of like screen time to just how your overall mood changes. And I'm going to slowly start to cut it off over the next 4 weeks. Well, after spring break, I'll probably really do it hard. But I'm going to try to cut every single week my screen time in half and see how much better I feel or worse. So like if I'm averaging 4 now, next week it will be 2, then 1, then half an hour. So you just keep dividing by 2. And a lot of the results that people have, especially those people that aren't on social media, are really, really good. But it is interesting because it's addictive. It's like a drug almost, which is kind of crazy to me.
And like you look at even things like Call of Duty, for instance. Sorry, this makes sense, but it's built on.
Never change the way you set up a topic. You're just
Yeah,
like, listen.
I gotta pivot. Now listen, y'all are about to talk about Star Wars or something. But with Call of Duty, that is in a sense an addiction. Temple Run and Jetpack Joyride are in a sense an addiction because you're just doing the same thing over and over again because it like feels good. When you get that like sick fucking like double kill or like quad feed or whatever, and all the points pop up and stuff, it's like, oh yes, this feels so good. And it's like you're just addicted. You know, it's the same with like, yes, look at all these snaps rolling in. It's the same energy, and like does that norm? I think that norm becomes problematic because then socialization and friendship is just totally kind of takes a perverse form of utility and just like, oh, these are just people I snap who are followers.
We definitely have utility relationships now. There's not as much like going
which isn't a bad thing. Not necessarily.
It just
not necessarily
doesn't. It doesn't fulfill you in a way that an agape love of a friendship, where we go back to donating that time, that kind of care love.
Yeah.
That caring, that generosity kind of love. Not. Well, I don't know if you guys know agape. I'm in a capstone with love class. I'm learning it about love, sex,
Oh, so you know all about this. Yeah.
It's really interesting.
What's
I like this
agape?
class. Agape it comes from a Christian root. We have Agape Sunday during Advent. It's the third Sunday. That's the pink candle is Agape Sunday. Agape love is the form of love that is totally generous, total charity. It's coming from the set of, I'm just going to give because it's for the betterment of others. It's not really meant to be like romantic or anything. It can be, if you have if your wife, I'll do anything to see her get, to improve her life, that would be a form of agape love. It's a combo with others, but agape love is definitely, think of it, the charitable love, that I don't have to, there's no reason for me to, but I am because it's for the betterment of others, and I would like to see that. Yeah. There's nothing you're going to take away from that. That's what I always thought of friendship. At least that's what I looked at for friendships, is people that aren't just objective, but also care about seeing you to a better place, even if that doesn't involve them. And that means spending time with them, just giving them a moment and listening and just, I mean, we all have different ideas of what we want in a friend, but the best friends I've ever had are people that pushed me to be better, people that challenged me and really cared about, how I was spending my time. I don't know. I'm trying to really reminisce at the same point so I can pull an example. So I'm kind of tailing off.
No, this probably comes because I'm a runner. So this example makes sense to me, but I think being on a team with a bunch of right now, we have such a great team culture going, but being on a team and collectively suffering with your guys and then achieving something and just hugs all around, fist bumps, you know what I mean? That collective joy. Because to laugh and to cry and to hurt and feel pain with someone else is everything. It's huge. Yeah. So being in a sport where it's going to hurt every single day and you have to get out the door and you have to really grind and it's going to be hard to do that with a bunch of guys. That's that's love. You know what I mean? And to laugh and to do dumb shit together and to be disappointed together and to rejoice together. It's such a roller coaster. But that's love. That's how it is. That's what it is. And to forge it in that sense through so much strife potentially, but so much joy too, that's something you can never get off of Snapchat or Instagram. No. That's something you can only get with someone else, So just going through things together, and laughing together and crying together and hurting together it's not there. You have to forge it. You have to hone it and temper it because it can't work if you don't. It's just anyone can do it if you don't have to do that,
Yeah, I do.
I think in crisis during someone's life or hardship during someone's life, the people they fall back on, it's not their Snapchat followers, Instagram followers.
Absolutely.
Never is. And if they try to do that, it's not fulfilling.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
Mm-hmm. It's the truth. Yeah. It's just to just be human and to be just here and to live well here. You need someone else. I remember I was in Gretzky the other day. I was eating lunch and this girl, one of her friends, come up. She's like, "Hey, do you want to sit by me or whatever?" And the girl was like, "I don't know. I kind of want to just watch TV right now." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." I was like, self-care. I get it. But I was like, damn, I would never want to do that. Mm-mm. I don't want to be like, you know what? I think I'm going to stay in and just play Xbox tonight. But sure, sometimes. But if someone comes to my door, it's like, "Hey, you want to hang out?" If I ever go to the point where I'm like, you know what? No, I don't know. I don't know if I want that, because there's of course there's self-care. Of course you need your own time, but I don't ever want to shut someone else out because I think I have something more important to be doing. Mm-hmm. And if that's something as novel as playing fucking Witcher 3, I don't want that to happen. But I feel like it's so easy to fall into the trap of, you know what? I don't think I want to drop by even for 10 minutes. I just, I don't want to do that. I don't really want to hang out. I just kind of wanted to, I think that comes to a point where it can be almost like an infection. You just never want to do it.
Never half-ass two things. Half-ass one thing. In the great words of Ron Swanson.
Half-ass one thing, baby. We're gonna quarter-ass this one.
No, we're just gonna whole-ass one thing.
Facts.
Get that done.
I don't know. Like
either be in or out.
Facts. Yeah. But I'm not saying self-care and time to yourself is unimportant. But I think you just have to keep yourself accountable and don't get in the habit of just shutting others out for does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, I do. I follow you.
I'm trying to find the words.
Yeah. So, after spending 2.5 hours with you. I'm starting to speak your language. I'm starting to figure
That's
it out.
what we like. The Henry Dog language.
Oh
There
my
we go.
The Henry Dog
Hen
language.
Dog language. That's what we're
Nice.
called.
Oh
now.
God, I sense a
Dialect of
podcast
Henry Dog.
coming.
There we go. But no.
Hen dog.
Going off of a point.
Hen Dog.
Hen
Hen
dog.
dog.
What's up, Henry?
Going off of a point brought up a little while ago, but you said Snapchat is kind of an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so true. Like when you're doing Snapchat, when you're playing a game, when you're taking a drug, it releases chemicals in your brain. It feels really good.
Yep.
But you move to a point where you no longer get that chemical release, and it's just an obligation.
Just automatic.
And you feel like
that's true.
if you don't do it, you're going to lose it all. And so like when I see people on Snapchat streaks, at a point I don't think they're actually getting any like pleasure out of it.
Just gotta
It's
keep
just like
going.
I have to do this. Like if I don't do this,
Yeah, and there's this
That's
weird
strange. I never thought of it that way.
there's no satisfaction, but there's all like backlash. If you break that, you feel like you've like hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
Can
strange.
you keep my streaks? I'm not gonna have my phone for a few days. I'm going to like this camp or whatever. Can you keep my streaks? I hear that all the time,
Yeah.
especially in high school. It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna have my phone. I'm doing this counselor thing. Can you like keep my streaks? Here's my
Yeah.
account. Keep my streaks.
Yeah.
Weirdest thing ever, but it just makes sense for some reason to just keep it going.
I don't know.
That's you plateau because you just need more and more and more. That's fascinating. I never thought
Yeah.
about it in the sense of plateauing and like just needing it to live.
yeah.
That's interesting. And that's how it is.
It just
That's
allows
true.
stuff to kind of exist on its own plane. Let it just kind of be. And you don't need to keep adding more and more to your life and expect that to kind of blossom. I get the idea that it's a social connecting app and
Of
you want to
course.
meet people, but it is funny to me where especially excuse me,
Oh, you're okay.
with some of my very good buddies, how many people that follow them.
Yeah.
And I'm just absolutely astounded. Like, you keep snap scores with like over 100 people. How do you do
It's
that?
incredible.
And they're like, oh, well, it's picture face gone. And I guess that kind of brings us back to where we started. Is it doesn't really help. It doesn't help us.
It
much.
promotes no dialogue whatsoever.
Yeah.
It just it's like we're just kind of all in our boxes, and then we just reach over once to know
Yeah.
we're still there.
And it's a measuring stick of how important we or satisfaction in other people's lives
Yeah.
that we have.
It is.
That is a strange thing. We wonder how other people think about us more than we think about how we want to feel.
Exactly.
That's a really bad way of saying that sentence. I'm
Wait,
sorry.
say it again. Say it again.
Like, again, no self-reflection. We're
we're good.
more concerned about how other people feel about us and the impact we have on their lives
And how we actually feel.
than the impact we have on our own and
Yeah.
the choices we make and how we choose to present ourselves and
Yeah.
the
So
passions we
true.
follow.
So true. We think so often, at least I do, about what others think of me.
Yeah.
And like that's how I judge myself.
You should be more selfish, Henry. You should be more selfish. You should think about what you want to do with your life.
It's true.
Thank
Because
you.
then greed is good. People
Greed
get
is
on the
good.
bandwagon.
Greed is good. Greed is good. Consume, baby
but
Yoda.
thinking- going back all the way to the impeachment trials, all of those Republican
Fucking
senators,
It's so.
all those Republican
yes.
senators were thinking, "What will my team think of me? What will my
Yeah.
senators think
Yep.
of me?" Instead of, "What will God think of me? How can I live with myself?"
Yeah. How is
doing
your
that.
own moral code going to hold up, and how do you want to hold yourself in
There's
what light?
there's a whole part. God, you're gonna get a kick out of this. The intro scene in Skyrim, where you're in Helgen. My ancestors are smiling on me, Imperials. Can you say the same?
Yeah, bring it home.
It's the
man.
same thing, though.
I
It's
can't
the
believe you just pulled that.
It's the
so
same
good.
thing. Hey, you're finally awake.
this is why.
but it's
have him
true
on.
because you look at Mitt Romney and going back to the impeachment, like that was genius, Henry. But you bring that
Jesus.
back.
That was genius.
God, it's
Nate.
like working with Abbott and Costello. I love
It's
it.
incredible. But no, we can bring that back to Arrivals because that's what the aliens are called.
Oh, I got It's
I said
almost getting to be that
Arrival,
time.
sorry.
I got to wrap this thing
Sorry.
up. I
Oh,
apologize.
I guess we'll bring it home.
Yeah, bring it home.
Crap,
This is
what
a
was
nice
I gonna
spot.
say? Oh no.
You were saying the Imperials are smiling upon
yeah,
me.
but with Mitt Romney, I think you can extrapolate that anywhere, because he's doing what's right in his conscience, and he's doing what's right before God, and he's aware of his faith. He's aware of what's gonna happen. He knows this is gonna kill his career. He knows what he's doing, but he's gonna do it anyway because it's right with his conscience. It's right. It's right. What's gonna work? It's gonna work with him. It's gonna sit well in his heart, and even though it's gonna have this backlash, doing the right thing, even though it's hard, is I think the biggest mark of virtue a human being can have.
Yeah.
Because you just kind of go forward with reckless abandon for yourself, and it can promote a lot of good. Because I think if you follow what you're gonna think is right,
if everyone does that, there's gonna be a place of peace within everyone, and just this. Well, other people are great, but you don't have to care what they think.
So I think Mitt Romney is an incredible example of what he just did in the impeachment trial, because that's real shit, you know. And that's So
Skyrim. That's
Skyrim.
real shit.
That's real shit.
Skyrim, Witcher, impeachment trial, minions. We out here right now. Let's go.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Well, what a way to end that.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
I'm going to probably get you guys back on here probably sooner rather than later. Because I always enjoy
I'd be
seeing
down.
you.
That would be awesome.
No, yeah, let me know anytime. Like I said, this is the studio. I run a bunch of stuff out of here, so if you ever want to just come in and chill and talk, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to plug real quick. Listen to the Candace podcast, one of our new groups. They came on. We're workshopping 2 new projects coming out very soon, so if you're a listener or loyal listener, look out for those. I think we got a new one. I won't say the name yet because we haven't had a proper name chosen, but it should be interesting. I'm kind of excited. That's a tease. You should watch for the new stuff we're coming out. Watch for future announcements. And as always, if you want to get in contact with the show, feel free to email us at bengriffinpodcast@gmail.com. We have Twitter. We have Instagram. Hit us up. Continue to do so. And like we said in the podcast, I also have a Minds account now because I'm getting older and I need to learn new shit. So feel free to reach out. Thank you to all those who have been. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed this. Henry, Nate Dogg, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.